And in this, at the beginning of it all, we are in some ruins in the middle of a forest and several people are preparing for a battle. But someone arrives, calling the humans, asking for a second of their attention. It's a kitten with clothes walking onto legs. He asks if they want to look at some good merchandise. Everyone is surprised that it's a merchant cat and likes it, saying it's cute, asking what the cat is selling. Then they notice that it's a cherry tomato. That blonde guy doesn't like it at all, because he was expecting something like legendary weapons or mysterious potions. They question whether it's just any fruit, saying they can eat things like that anywhere. But the cat says those humans are too foolish because he knew they would react like that. This fruit is different from a common cherry tomato. He tells them to look at the description. The girl asks if it's different. The mage asks if it's an item. Then she sees that the cherry tomato is magical and increases mana regeneration by 0.1 for 10 minutes. She says it increases a little, but is surprised. Another girl says she can lose 10 grams of fat just by eating that. And that buff guy asks if that works. And the cat says yes, asking if it's not amazing, saying it'll be half a coin each. So they ask the cat for 200, wanting to buy in absurd quantities, and the cat almost doesn't believe it. So one of them says he wants the whole stock. But at that the buff guy asks where he got that and who the hell made those items, so the cat thinks for a bit, but just says it's a secret. And already in another corner of that same place, in a plantation of those cherry tomatoes, our protagonist is welcoming him, and he says he thinks there are enough tomatoes for today. And he's next to a rabbit with Luffy's hat. The rabbit is wearing Luffy's hat, and so he calls all the other rabbits to rest and prepares to make some juice from that tomato. And he asks the bee that is rubbing against him if she could give him more honey, and it vomits honey into his glass, and he shakes it, making a shake of it, and drinks it, along with the other rabbits that are drinking juice of carrots. And they all drink the cups of the greatest happiness in the world, and that is the drink of life, cherry tomato juice with honey. And he says that this is the good life, along with all the other rabbits. But then, the system sends him a mission, an additional mission. He must distribute the honey liquid with the tower administrators, and the compensation will be none. And if he rejects, they will be disappointed, and he is surprised by this, but says it's okay, saying he will make some for them later. And then they remain disappointed. But then, the cat returns to the protagonist, calling his master Sejun, and says that he has finally returned, and he says that he did a good job, and it was very fast. And then he notices that he sold everything and brought a lot of coins, saying that he thinks he will let him be CEO for an hour. And Sejun starts to get excited, thinking that it is a matter of time until his name becomes famous. But the cat reacts with a little astonishment to the protagonist's words, and says that it is not time to be silly, saying that he needs to eat quickly and leave, because he wants more money. And then Sejun asks if Hess already leaving, saying that he can rest a little. But the cat talks to the black rabbit, asking him to replenish the supplies. And with that, the rabbit starts making sashimi from the fish that are in front of him. And he notices that he has become addicted to the taste of the money. So the protagonist thinks he almost forgot completing another day in that place, marking it on a stone. And he says that 150 days have passed, and he introduces himself a little, because his name is Sejun Park, and his class is farmer. So he asks the rabbit if he has finished cutting those fish, and the caped cat that was there says that he will also help a little. So the protagonist explains that it has been 150 days since he somehow entered the tower and got lost. And so far he has a huge plantation there, thinking that in this case he will start his cultivation. And he says that this is the story about how he survived getting lost in the tower. And then 10 years ago in Seoul, in one day during the chaos, a 99-story black tower appeared in the middle of Gangnam. It wasn't just in Gangnam. A total of 100 towers appeared at the same time in cities across different countries, including Korea. Each country investigated the tower that appeared in their country. The only thing they discovered was that the tower was 990 meters tall and made of incredibly strong material, and not even nuclear bombs could pierce those towers. One day, people started exiting the tower through the wall. Everyone was surprised to see those clothes in the real world. They wondered how they got into the tower. He said that out of nowhere, a black hole appeared, and when he woke up, he was on the first floor of the tower. This became news around the world. All 100 towers are connected to one. When you enter the tower, you will be awakened on the first floor. Then, for him to choose a role, wizard or warrior, monsters start appearing on the second floor. Every time they clear a floor, they get different rewards. The man giving the interview says that if the person is lucky, they can get that ticket. Then one of the journalists asks what that ticket is, and he says it's an item. And people like them who have awakened can freely enter and exit the tower. But ordinary people need that ticket to enter the tower, and climbing the tower is only possible for the awakened. She asked if he thinks people would consider going to such a scary tower with a bunch of monsters, asking if he knows anything about the origin of the tower. He says that no one has discovered it yet, but signs for the assistant who was next to him. She opens a small chest, taking out a lot of gold gold and precious jewels. And everyone is surprised by the amount of stuff that came out of that tiny chest. He says he's sure of one thing: climbing the tower will make him rich. And so it is said that the Awaken Association announced that the price of tickets for the Black Tower will be increased from 150 million won to 200 million starting next week. And they also announced that hundreds of thousands of people are waiting to buy the ticket before the prices go up. Meanwhile, a boy is trying to pass his purchases at the grocery store. And you are not paying attention to what you should. And she says that the world is going crazy and people are risking their lives just to make money, but they want 100 billion for it, asking if they don't think they're exaggerating. Then 26-year-old Paxi agrees with that lady, and after that he's going back home and says that after deducting the tuition fee, interest, and rent, he managed to save about 12 billion. And if the price of tickets goes up again, he wonders when he'll be able to buy one. But the question he asks himself is if he'll really be able to buy the ticket, and he gets tired of his life but thinks he shouldn't give up because he has to keep his spirits up, saying that there has to be a way to save more money. He says that he bought those vegetables at a good price and wonders if he should try to grow some because it seems like they're also going to get more expensive. He remembers a girl talking about that automatic vegetable grower for home use, and he says he saw his favorite idol, Sira, talk about it in a vegetable commercial, and says he needs to save as much as possible to buy the ticket, and maybe he can get into a good guild when they see his talent, and if he completes the tower, he will be able to marry his idol. And he gets all silly about it and thinks he should hold on tight, but behind him a black hole starts to open and he doesn't even notice, and the hole gets so big that it starts to pull him, and he is surprised by that and realizes that it is the phenomenon that sucked the first generation of Awaken, wondering if it will pull him, and says he is ready to risk his life to climb the tower, asking the black hole to take him, but both the black hole and he get in a terrible mood seeing that ridiculous thing he just said. Then he asks why the black hole started to shrink, because apparently our protagonist was so cringe, but so cringe, that he made an extra spatial phenomenon not want to take him. He thinks he can't miss that opportunity because it won't pull him, it will go himself, and the crazy guy throws himself in the middle of that black hole to be able to take his chance to climb the tower. Then, after a while, he falls face down in a completely different place, and in that he wonders if he managed to get into the tower, and notices that inside there are sophisticated chandeliers and marble, besides the square on the first floor, thinking that it is full of equipment and potions. But as he looks around, there is nothing but a hole in the middle of a cave and a rock alone there, and he is completely isolated, wondering what this is and what the hell is this, because he is in the middle of a deserted forest wondering where he is, and he is apparently very far from the place where he needed to be. And in that at the top of the tower someone is looking at a crystal ball, and it appears to be a dragon, and he says that the crystal ball detected a change in the tower, and he says that he needs to find the cause, as this is the duty of the tower administrator. Meanwhile, the protagonist is scared to death of what is happening, and in this they ask an adventurer what kind of place the Black Tower is. And she says it's something like a palace, very bright and spacious, and says that there are many items you can buy in the tower, and usually it buys potions. But another adventurer says that the most important thing on the first floor is the training ground, and if you want to survive in the tower, you need to be strong enough to fight monsters. And that's what they said. But the protagonist, there in the place where he is buried, has none of that, and he is living only on breeze, already without any hope. And he says that there is no way out there because he wandered the cave all day, but found no way out, and no training ground, no shop, nothing at all. And he lost his voice screaming for help, but still there is no one around. And he wonders if he is lost. And after so much time in despair and alone, he starts to play the Joker until his cell phone vibrates and he gets a fright. And when he picks up his cell phone, he notices that the alarm is ringing. So it has been a day since he arrived there, but there is no signal, and it would not make sense for the alarm to be wrong, and he starts to feel hungry. But looking to the side, he sees that he still has all the groceries he was taking home, and there are tomatoes, some chives, a loaf of bread, and some potatoes, plus a bottle of water, and the total of tomatoes and cherries is 27 and 10 chives. Plus, there are 7 sweet potatoes with pumpkin and an apple, and he says that he will eat the apple first, and as he takes a bite, he asks if there is anything better than eating an apple in the morning, saying that it is very sweet, and in the end, only the core remains, and he is still hungry. And with that, he falls into the sweet potato, really enjoying what he is eating, saying that it is delicious, and that chewy texture makes biting into them very good, and it was tastier than he thought, and he says that they always cook them, but he thinks it is good to eat them raw from time to time. However, he starts to choke and almost dies like that, and in that, he turns the bottle of water over his mouth to save his life, and falls lying on that rock he's using as a bed, and says it was a good meal. And as he looks at the sky, he wonders how long he'll be stuck there, because he needs to find a way to get out before the food runs out, wondering how long he can handle that food, and thinks that if he doesn't wear himself out, he'll end up turning into a mummy, and then it's all over. But then he gets up thinking he doesn't want to die like this, saying that this is a tower, and his dream was to get there. He can't just die like this. But when he looks to the side, he sees the rest of the apple still with the seeds, and opens a hole in the ground, placing the apple there, planting it. In the hope of giving something, he also takes the chives, saying he has 10 of them, and he'll use the leaves as food and plant the roots. And he'll also plant 3 tomatoes and 2 sweet potatoes, and he'll leave the rest to eat, and says he will do everything to survive and wait until they grow their fruits, and says that they will be his future. But after a while, he takes one alone, wondering what that was, asking if it is a monster, thinking scared that it was certainly the sound of a monster. But they said that monsters do not exist on the first floor. But he becomes more and more scared because he has a blue moon in the sky, darkening all the surroundings, and that noise gets louder and louder. He becomes very uncomfortable and begins to feel his body trembling until he sees a shadow passing over him that catches his attention, and that shadow hovers near the moon, the shadow of a dragon, and he notices that it is a black dragon, thinking it is beautiful, but falls unconscious there on the ground. Meanwhile, his vegetables begin to grow. Without further ado, then the next day at 6 in the morning, his alarm also goes off, and he grabs his cell phone to turn it off. Then he thinks that his head hurts, wondering how long he was unconscious, until he realizes that it was 2 whole days. And when he moves, he begins to feel his back hurt because of the position he was in, noticing that he is very tired and his whole body aches and he has no energy. And he wonders what tree is behind him, and when he looks, it is a chive of the one he had planted, but in a gigantic version, and he wonders when they grew so much, even wondering if the chives could grow so much in such a short time. But he thinks they didn't, because maybe it happened because he was in the tower. And he says he saw a documentary that the shape of the plant changes depending on how it grew, and some power must have affected the chive. And he says that maybe the others grew too, and he notices that they really appeared, and there are several of them, 52, and he says that they won't get enough light because of the shade. And he says it's better for him to harvest the chives, and he thinks they are too thick, and it's harder than he thought. And when he finishes harvesting, he wonders how it tastes, and when he eats it, it's too hot, and he spits fire because of it, going to the water because it's too spicy, thinking that it's much spicier than the original taste. And he thinks it's weird because it doesn't hurt his stomach, and he thinks he'll eat it when he wants something spicy because he should be able to get used to it. And he says he will put away the other chives, also picking up his cherry tomatoes. When he starts to eat one of them, he feels that it's a little different, but he also notices that the sun doesn't set in the tower, but occasionally the sun is hidden by the moon on each floor. He calls this phenomenon a blue moon, but he notices that the blue moon only occurs on the 10th floor. He thought he was somewhere on the 1st floor, but he notices that there's a dragon there. That wasn't a hallucination. 10 years ago, when the tower appeared, one of the biggest guilds, the Phoenix Guild, managed to complete the 37th floor. Information from the 30th floor onwards is a guild secret, but a lot of information about the floors below 30 can be found on YouTube. From the 2nd to the 10th floor, skeleton soldiers appear, and from the 11th to the 20th, golems appear, and from the 21st to the 30th, orcs begin to appear. And according to some rumors, from the 31st floor onwards, monster spiders start to appear, and they never mention anything about dragons. He has already circulated the internet a lot, but they never said anything similar to a dragon like lizards or something like that, and he wonders what floor that is, questioning himself. If you got lost on a floor like the best hunters, he arrived. While he is calmly looking at the sky, something falls on his face, and he wonders if that is rain, saying that he heard that the weather in the tower was almost always clear. But it was not rain, and it was something different that disappears as soon as he looks. He wonders what that was, wondering if it is a monster. But it turns out to be a little bunny that is dying of hunger up there, and he is surprised by this, wondering if he is a monster too. And the bunny simply jumps from up there to down, and he asks it to be careful, wanting to catch the rabbit so as not to let it get all screwed. But the rabbit simply lands on the protagonist's head, jumping calmly to the ground and going towards his chives, and he starts to think that this is not an ordinary rabbit, and the fluffy rabbit points to his chives, and the protagonist asks if he wants them, and the rabbit somehow confirms this. So he takes that chive, picking it, and offering it to the rabbit, and he starts eating it all fluffy next to him, and the protagonist asks if he liked it, saying that he can take more because he has a lot, and the rabbit really accepts. Then the protagonist begins to notice that they have already grown all this overnight, and says that apparently he will have to harvest twice a day, and the rabbit is happy about this, talking to him, and the protagonist does not quite understand. But the rabbit shouts upstairs as if he were talking to one of them, and another rabbit jumps down. A rabbit wearing an apron, and that rabbit brings a hat and also a watering can for the rabbit that came down first. And he notices that they are already to there, and wonders if they are married. And the bunnies confirm that they are. And the protagonist thinks that a few days after getting lost in the tower, a couple of rabbits join him at the cave. Man, I found this luffy rabbit really cute, for the love of God. The straw hat for the rabbit is just a joke. If someone works making stuffed animals and wants to make a rabbit like this, with Luffy's hat for me, I'll be really happy. And that's it. The protagonist's life in the tower hole goes from strength to strength, with the rabbit planting, harvesting, watering, and living a wonderful life alongside those little bunnies who are working for him, harvesting and eating alongside the protagonist. He notices that they make a beautiful couple, asking how this happened, because a while ago he was quite surprised when the rabbit said they wanted to live in the cave with him, and they both made faces like begging cattle to be allowed to stay there. And with those cute faces, he was caught by this cuteness, saying that it was okay, but says that nothing is for free, and he will consider if they help him with the farm, and says that all they need to do is cut the chives, but he even thinks about saying other things, but the two jump on him, and he tells them not to be so cute, because if they keep touching him with that cute fur, he will end up taking them in. And after a lot of cuteness, he actually lets them live there. And he says that he feels like he is being manipulated, but he will let them. And by the way, he talks to the two, asking if those things they are carrying are items coming from the tower, because the watering can the husband is carrying has unlimited water. He doesn't know if the rabbit wife has a magic pocket, but she keeps taking tools out of there too, and he says he's very jealous of that, because he wanted to have some of that equipment. And the rabbit talks to him, and he's surprised that they're already finished, and then gets up to tell what they caught. And he tells them to save the chives that were cut, because it seems there hasn't been any change in the sweet potatoes yet, besides that the tomato and cherry sprouts have already grown. And he says they're growing really fast. He thinks the ignorance is because of the rabbits, but when he looks to the side, the two bunnies are a little apprehensive, and they wait for an answer from the protagonist, and he ends up convincing himself, saying that they're both hired, and they really like that, and starts talking in front of the boy who doesn't understand anything. And with that, they both run off out of nowhere, and he questions what was that, while they both walk away. And with that, the little bunny takes out a shovel and hands it to her husband, who starts digging there, opening a huge hole. And while he is digging that hole, she makes a wreath of flowers, placing it on the door like their den, making a house for herself. While she is all happy, her husband is very tired from digging so much, and he thinks this is incredible, noticing that they built a house very quickly, and says that the rabbit husband did very well. And he agrees with the protagonist, thanking him for the compliment. However, like a good husband, apparently he has a duty to fulfill, and this duty comes to tap him on the shoulder, to pull him to the answer, and she is already all silly, calling him inside to be able to start her family, and he is so tired that he is afraid of what she will do to him, and so he is dragged inside by the bunny, and they lock themselves in there, and the noise that comes from there, my friends, is a little, the protagonist gets a little nervous, a little embarrassed, and he tells his husband the rabbit to have good luck in there, and thinks he's jealous. He was going to say it was boring being alone in the cave, but thanks to the rabbits, he got help with the farm and saw cute things, so he lies down on some old chives to sleep. But out of nowhere, he smells smoke and sees that it's on fire, and he notices that his things are hot, and that chive caught fire because of the light reflected on the bottle, and he wonders what the hell is this, and realizes it was the plastic bottle finally. And then he has an idea. He thinks the environment in the Black Tower was harsh, but he didn't lose hope, and he says he had chives and a plastic bottle, and says he was able to use that transparent bottle with an improvised lens to create fire. And he says it's exactly like in the first episode of Surviving in the Jungle, a series on YouTube, and he prepares to make his little fire, but it doesn't work. And he says that smoke starts to come out, but it doesn't catch fire, wondering why, and he loses hope because he was sure that was how to make a fire, wondering what went wrong. But out of nowhere, that little ember starts to grow, and finally he will get the fire he dreamed of. Meanwhile, the husband rabbit comes out of the hole, completely sucked in with the female rabbit. All happy, he notices the protagonist blowing there next to him, trying to make fire, and he stands. They're asking the god of fire to please help him, and the two rabbits arrive there quite surprised. And he talks to the couple, saying it's great, asking if they can get wind in the leaves, and the female rabbit starts blowing to help him, and he asks her to please work, wanting to make fire in every way until he finally gets the first flame. Happy to finally get fire, he looks back, looking at the chives, throwing some of them to cook. He wonders if that is enough, and thinks it's hot, and starts peeling the burnt part to get what was inside and throw it in. And when he eats it, he realizes that it's finally sweet, and it's a sweetness similar to sugar. He's running madly in his head, and it's as if he has a green horse running in a big green field in his mouth, and he says that it's delicious, saying it's very well, doing even more, and the rabbits are surprised by what he's doing, so they grab a chive, repeating what the protagonist did, and they are both very happy with what they just ate. And he says that after getting lost, he finally managed to be satisfied with a warm meal and went to sleep like an angel. And after a good dose of sleep, the protagonist wakes up looking at the lake to the side and going there to wash his face, and after that he looks at the plantation, and a lot of things are already growing there. He says that the onion harvest is already over, so he also watered the cherry tomatoes. and has already watered the sweet potatoes, and thinks that this is wonderful. And he says that a lot of things have happened recently, and after he learned how to make a fire, he used the onions to place toast around the cave, and so he can wander around more easily there. And he tells the rabbit couple that near the well it is very dark, and a torch there would help. But then he notices something there, and a piranha, or it was supposed to look like that, flies out towards the boy. He asks what that is, and the fish tries to bite him, and the boy says that it is the first time he has seen one there, wondering if he was attracted by the lights, and he says that was how he discovered a new food source, and he put that fish to roast next to the fire, wondering if it is good, and when he took a bite, he thought it was tasty, and all the bunnies also wanted to eat it, and he asks if they also eat meat, but by the way they are looking, apparently they do, and he says that he thinks these things don't matter much, saying that they are still monsters. And a few days later, the blue moon happened again, and because of that, he discovered that this phenomenon occurs every 30 days. He was using the notebook and the external battery to charge the cell phone and track the days, but this also reached its limit. He started counting the days in another way after the cell phone was fully charged, and he notices that 61 days have already passed. Unfortunately, the rabbits go to sleep exactly at 7 p.m. and wake up at 5 in the morning, and if he is guided by Feather Body Clock, he won't have any problems with the fact that the sun doesn't set on this floor. And he says that some days something incredible happened. He sees the husband rabbit coming out of the burrow to say good morning to him, but it turns out that several little bunnies come out together, and he is surprised by this, with so many bunnies going after him. And he says that the rabbit couple had several little bunnies, and he asks those babies if they missed him, and he says he was happy to become an uncle, but says that it seems like they didn't get any sleep, saying that it must be a lot of work raising those little beasts, saying that he can take care of the children, telling them to enjoy breakfast, and they are both really exhausted, and the protagonist talks to them, calling them to take a look at the cherry tomatoes, and arriving there, most of them have already sprouted, and the little bunnies are playing in the middle of the plantation, and he notices that the flowers have started to bloom. It is increasingly like a flower garden, and to bear fruit it needs pollination, and that's why they do classes in this artificial way one by one. But he thinks that doing this all day is ruining his back, saying that it would be great if a bee came there, but he wonders if it would be too greedy to wait for it. And while he is doing the work, he sees one of the bunnies entering the flower and getting pollen all over his nose, so he exhales in front of the protagonist, making the boy laugh a lot. And he says that it's better not to breathe in the pollen until he notices something, noticing that there is a fruit there, and says that after all this hard work they finally got a fruit, and he is all happy with that little bunny. And he says that it happened the day before the blue moon, so he prepares once again to go to sleep, putting out the fire and putting it away. Then he thinks that I think it's enough to camouflage himself and keep warm, and the bunny is also surprised by what he is doing, while the female rabbit puts the babies home, and the protagonist says that it should start in a few minutes, saying he'll see them later if they survive, and he thinks the blue moon is a piece of cake. But at night everything gets dark, and he starts to get scared, unable to sleep looking at that hole, and he notices that this is very tiring, thinking about how much is left until the end, saying that just to be on the safe side he hid all things that smell good, and he was going to play until the blue moon ended. But since he doesn't know how many hours have passed, each minute seems like an hour, and he says that those screams seem to come from far away, but still his body doesn't stop shaking, and says that he hopes that this night also ends without problems. But then he hears an even more terrifying noise, wondering what that was, and outside a gigantic paw is walking around there with a huge monster much bigger than the trees there, and that gigantic red bear comes close to the protagonist hole, getting close enough to be seen from inside next to the moon, and so that shadow of the bear goes close to the boy, and he is scared shitless because of that threat, thinking that he really is unlucky, and the bear keeps looking inside, and the boy notices that it still hasn't noticed him, thinking to himself that it's better to hide before it notices him, and he thinks about being silent and leaving there little by little. But when he picks up his backpack, it is open, and everything that was inside falls, making a hell of a noise, and so he dies of fear and turns his gaze upwards, and the bear actually hears that, sticking his face inside that hole, already in front of the protagonist, who starts screaming when he sees that monster, and the bear goes crazy wanting to eat him. But after that scare, in the morning, all the rabbits go after the protagonist and try to wake him up, but he asks for a little more sleep, until the rabbit in Luffy's hat hits the protagonist, giving him a slap, waking him up with the greatest vitality possible. And he gets up asking what is happening, wondering what happened and what about the blue moon. But looking at the sky, he notices that it is over, with the little bunny saying that is exactly it. He finally realizes that he fainted, and his whole body is sore, but he wonders what happened, because that monster was at the entrance of the cave. Then he starts screaming and doesn't remember anything else, and he still feels scared now, remembering that, because he was almost killed by a monster. He looks at all the bunnies, finally realizing how terrifying his situation is. He starts to feel incredibly cold, and so the mother bunny shouts to him, showing him the fire that was there. there. He lights the fire, growing it, and finally manages to warm himself with the bunnies. She brings him some fish while he thanks her. After eating, he returns to his natural mood, thinking that the monster noticed this place. He doesn't know if he felt the presence of another monster or just gave up because the hole was too small for him to pass through. But he has no guarantee that next time nothing will happen. He says he was lucky this time, but he might actually end up dying and thinks that he worked hard to get there. For now, all he can do is eat enough to survive, and he puts it into practice thinking about doing something later. Then Luffy's bunny called Protagonist, and he gets curious about what the bunny wants to show. And the bunny takes him to a completely different blue cherry tomato the size of a golf ball, and he thinks that it is very beautiful, but he wonders why it turned blue and notices that it is already ripe, and when he takes it out, a system window appears in front of the boy's face, which says that he successfully completed the mission of harvesting a fruit that contains the energy of the blue moon, and he is very surprised by this because it is a message from the system, and the system says that his incredible achievement caught the attention of the tower administrator, and the tower administrator starts keeping an eye on the boy, and he is not happy with him, but the protagonist wonders why this reaction, while Luffy's bunny doesn't understand anything about what is going on, and the system says that the ADM discovered that he is not someone who was properly invited, so he wants to hide this mistake, and the protagonist questions about this, asking how so. Also asking if it was a mistake for him to end up there, saying that it has been 61 days that he has been in that place, and only now they are telling him that it was a mistake, asking him to help him because he wants to go home. But the system says that the ADM is considering killing him to pay for the evidence, and the protagonist does not like this at all because he even unlocked an achievement, and instead of rewarding him, he is planning to kill him, asking what the hell is this? And the ADM doesn't even have anything to say, and the protagonist starts to think he went too far. And so the system says that the ADM is awakening him, and the boy really goes through a re-evolution and then finally awakens, and wonders if he is now officially an awaken of the tower, and asks about his class, asking if he will be a swordsman, but he thinks and calls himself smart, saying that he thinks he will be a mudge, but the system says that the ADM assigned a class to him. He asks what it is, and is surprised to read what his class is, and he becomes the tower's farmer, rank F, and then all his excitement goes down the drain, and he doesn't believe what he is reading, and the system says that because of his work, he will not get sick, and because of his work, he will also be in sync with nature, and besides that he will gain experience points by harvesting crops, but at that he asks it to wait, asking how he will be a farmer, ordering the status window to open, and all his attributes are visible, besides he has no skills, and he is surprised that that is his status window, that when he reads that he has a mediocre talent, all the boy's hopes disappear, because he already imagined himself in the wee hours, giving an interview with the presenter, saying that he has a special guest who finished the dungeon despite having a mediocre talent. Then they ask him what his class is, and when he says he is a farmer, he starts to go into denial, not wanting to believe it, because he doesn't need it. But when he prepares to attack that blue tomato, he looks at the little bunnies who are scared with the reaction of being Juo, not recognizing the boy, and he is embarrassed to see that. And finally he composes himself a little, looking at everything he built together with that family, and he starts to accept things because they worked hard to grow it. And then he says that he thinks he will continue growing it along with all of them, making the bunnies happy with the decision, and he looks at that fruit. And so its status window opens. Is a magical cherry tomato imbued with the energy of the blue moon, and that cherry tomato fruit grown in the tower is nutritious and tasty. However, now with the energy of the blue moon, its flavor has improved even more. When consumed, it permanently increases your mana points by 0.05. It has a shelf life of 30 days and a starting point of 8. The boy is surprised that it is an item, thinking it is tiny, but it increases his attributes, and says that this is incredible, thinking that he can't do it because of that, wondering if he can grow something so good. Meanwhile, the dragon continues to look at the boy's harvest and is shocked by it. The protagonist tells the rabbits that it was thanks to him that he managed to get this far, celebrating with his family. But then he receives another notification, and a mission is given to him, telling him to offer the fruit containing the energy of the blue moon to the ADM. The reward is a skill related to his class, and failure is death. When he sees that he will be punished with death if he doesn't give the fruit, he wonders if this is some kind of joke, because it has to be. I'm starting to think so. That this ADM is a bit abusive, because man, you're abusing it, huh? You're abusing it a little. And the protagonist realizes that the ADM may even be calling this transmission, but it's blackmail, and says that he should just ask for Roma and not act like he's giving him a choice, and questions himself about death, wondering how worthless a life is too. This ADM, and he notices that and says that the monster can keep giving its fruit out of free and spontaneous pressure, and tells him to spare his life, and the fruit disappears from his hand, and he completes the mission. And the reward appears in front of him for him to open, and he is surprised, because the mission had actually mentioned the class-related skill, and he says that he was so shocked by the death penalty that he forgot about the reward, and says that the ADM is very generous, and when he opens it, the skill is SMA, which slightly increases the chance of germination occurring when a seed is planted, and the boy doesn't like the skill at all, because he had forgotten that his class is the farmer tower, and he becomes very disappointed again. So after a while, he starts attracting more fish to be able to kill it, and when the fish jumps out of the water wanting to catch the fire, the protagonist hits it with a club, and it falls dead there, and now he can identify that it is a piranha, and since he kills the piranha, which is a monster, he gets 2 experience points, and he says that with that, there are 5, which are 10 experience points, and he explains that after awakening, he started getting experience points, and after blinking several piranhas for days, he somehow reached level 2, and he says he would catch more piranhas, but it is not a good idea to kill living beings for no reason, and they are a good source of protein, and he can't kill them all, and so he calls the bunnies with the fish ready, calling them to eat, and everyone gathers with them. He asks them to eat calmly, because they started eating a lot, then they grew a little, and they need to leave some for their parents, and the protagonist says that he also got information about the rabbits, and he serves the fish to both of them, and those are white farmer rabbits, and he is surprised that this is their identity, because it is a type of monster in which he had never heard of them, and based on their name, he believes that their species has specialized in farming instead of fighting, and he thinks that's why no one knows them, and he says he doesn't know what happened, but he assumes that they must have lost their farm and migrated somehow to be able to end up there, wondering if they had somewhere to return, and he thinks it would be great if they could get along, because all they do is chirp, and Luffy's bunny is surprised that the protagonist complains about this, but he says that anyway. They're going to start work, saying that it's an important day, and Luffy's bunny is very determined to help the protagonist and go into the garden. They get more cherry tomatoes, and everyone is surprised by this, because it's finally time to harvest, and the fruits that took so much work to grow are finally giving some reward, since the ones they got before the blue moon don't count, so he says he'll harvest them with quite heavy in his heart, and when he is about to pull out those tomatoes, he trembles, and all the bunnies are also apprehensive, and when he pulls them out, he celebrates his first cherry tomato, and says that he didn't even have to exert himself to do it. Then he is surprised by the experience points, and the system says that he obtained that magical cherry tomato, and his class experience points increase slightly, and he obtains 10 experience points, and he is surprised that that is a magical cherry tomato, noting that it is like the blue one above, and that tomato is a cherry tomato grown in the tower, which is nutritious and delicious, and when consumed, it decomposes 10 grams of fat and increases his mana points by 0, 1 for 10 minutes, and a maximum of 10 effects can be accumulated at the same time for an hour, and when consumed, in addition to decomposing 10 grams of fat, it also gives him energy, and he is of high rank, and the protagonist notices that its effects only last 10 minutes, but when eating 10 at a time at the same time, the mana increase reaches 1 point, wondering if the other tomatoes do the same, and he keeps picking the tomatoes until he picks the wrong one. Then the system tells him that his class experience points don't increase, and he only gets 7 experience points, and notices that he gained less this time, and didn't get anything from the class, and he says that that one there isn't an item, and is just a common cherry tomato, and he starts to understand, realizing that he needs to pick it at the right time for it to become an item, and thinks that this is more difficult than he had imagined, and then he starts picking and gets 1 extra attribute point because of the harvest, being surprised that he has already reached level 4, and supposes that is enough for now, so he throws one in his mouth wanting to see how it is, but the bunnies next to him are quite angry with the boy's selfishness wanting him to owe the harvest by charging the protagonist, and he apologizes, saying that they did this together, and should eat together, telling them not to be upset, and they actually go after his tomatoes, and he says that it's time to celebrate the successful harvest of cherry tomatoes with each of them, calling them to fill their pockets, and everyone throws the tomato in their mouth, and when they bite into it, they are surprised, because it's as if they were lying in a green field, looking at the sky, and fireworks burst, lighting up the night, and it focuses on the fresh fragrance of the grass, and the sweet and sour taste that merges with that aroma. It's like fireworks in the middle of summer, and he remembers the summer, getting moved eating the tomatoes, but the bunnies don't quite understand what he's talking about. So his wife asks the bay rabbit what he's talking about, and he says he has no idea, so everyone has fun continuing to harvest, and also tidying up their stock, and they hide it so it won't be taken, and the protagonist observes this, talks about the children, saying that they've grown enough to help their parents with their chores, and he thinks that they are really children of farmer rabbits, but notices that he's fallen asleep, and he thinks he's going to fall asleep, saying that tomorrow will be a great day. And Sejun tells himself that he did very well, and while he sleeps, the system sends him another mission, telling him to offer 100 magic tomatoes to the ADM. And the reward is a class-related skill, and failure once again is the death. But the protagonist is asleep and doesn't even see it. So the system gets angry and makes a huge fuss, waking the boy up. He gets pissed, saying he'll give him some and complete the mission. He thinks it's forcing him to do these things, asking him to please give him something useful this time. When he opens the reward, it's Harvest Level 1, which is a skill that allows you to harvest fruits a little before or after the ideal time, but they are treated as if they had been harvested exactly at the right time. He gets pissed about these skills, wondering why he would need a harvesting skill. However, a while later, when he was about to harvest, he says he had thought it was useless, but it's much more useful than he thought. An effect is active every time he harvests, before or after the time, and so he gets experience points for the entire harvest, even if it's at the wrong time. It becomes a magic tomato. He says that's funny. He gets the class points even when he harvests the tomatoes out of time. Now he doesn't have to wait until the perfect day, and this has made things much easier and faster. So he calls the rabbits to pick even more tomatoes, but another mission is given to the boy, and now he must offer 100 syringe tomatoes, but the reward is none, and failure has a punishment, which is death, and the sprout says he already knew and was taking too long, asking if there won't be a reward, calling the ADM a shitty thief, and thinking that this last mission helped him, and tells him to get it quickly, but the rabbit gets mad about this. But Seiya realizes that this was just the beginning, and the ADM continues asking for more and more tomatoes, asking for 250 this time, without any reward, and the boy realizes that he has become increasingly greedy, increasing his order several times, wondering why the number keeps growing, and then a mission is given to offer 500 syringe tomatoes with no reward, and the sprout simply gets angry and refuses that mission, and then the ADM is surprised, and the system makes a point of showing this, and it is said that on that day, he rebelled against the ADM of the tower for the first time. Come on guys, the oppression of the state is even reaching my air. Go 100, 150, 200, 300, 500. The beast put its foot down. This tax is getting too much, and this makes me think that each tomato he picks gives 10 experience points, and he has already offered a lot, besides what he must keep for himself. Imagine the level this beast is at. And seeing that ADM is getting more and more greedy, he asks what he wants, since he already caught 100 more that day alone, and says that they also need to eat some to stay alive, asking, what the hell is this? But the ADM sends him a message saying that this is the tower farmer's problem, not his, telling him to stop crying and bring the cherry tomatoes, and the protagonist starts to play the Joker, questioning if it is his problem, saying that he worked in the gold and suffered for days to be able to grow them, but the ADM says that he only planted the seeds, telling him to stop making a mountain out of a teacup because it is nothing big, and the protagonist questions about this mountain out of a teacup, unable to stand the ADM's joke anymore, saying that he doesn't want it and won't give him any shit. And then, the ADM feels frustrated talking to the protagonist, and starts to get nervous while the boy completely ignores him. So the system continues saying that the ADM is wondering if he will really refuse the mission, and then the protagonist continues living peacefully with the rabbits, and the ADM keeps sending him messages, telling the boy that he will end up dying this way, but his threats no longer have any effect, and the protagonist says that he will not give the fruits of his labor to someone who says that all he did was plant. So the ADM asks if this is not the work of the tower farmer, saying that the protagonist must listen to his orders, but the boy says that is why he will not give him anything anymore, saying that he forced him to do this. And even so, he does not value all his work, and keeps compensating him with crumbs for all this, questioning if he is not the ADM of the tower, saying that in that case he is a shitty boss. And the dragon almost does not believe what he is saying, being very shocked, and gets angry about this, and then almost apologizes, saying that he is sorry, but he sees the protagonist simply enjoying the tomatoes showing off to him, and the dragon does not like this at all, and says that he is very angry because he ate all the cherry tomatoes, and says he will kill him now if he doesn't buy the mission, but the protagonist then gives him 5, saying he will give the rest later, and says he also needs to feed the children, who are fighting over some tomatoes, and then the 5 disappear from the protagonist's hand, and the ADM says he will let it go just this once, and then the boy just thanks him, and the ADM remains silent, and he wonders if the ADM was going to apologize, because apparently he noticed when the ADM erased what he was writing, and he thinks that the tower administrator is simpler than he had thought, and so, now it has been 91 days that he has been in the tower, and the 4th blue moon appears, and he once again hides to get through that ordeal while eating some tomatoes, not being able to sleep because of nervousness, and he says that people with a lot of mana can withstand the roar of monsters with a certain level, and that's why he's eating the cherry tomatoes, but he says it would be better if that didn't happen again, and he rolls here and hopes that this time pass faster, and then the blue moon shines overhead off a bunch of tomatoes that were there. And he is surprised, and the tomatoes are gaining power, and he notices that this is very good, and the tomatoes start to turn blue right in front of him. And so he says he needs to pick it right now, but as he prepares to go to the tomato, he gets scared, but ends up noticing that even the leaves of the sweet potato are being illuminated by the blue moon, and he thinks that this can't be happening because he needs to check and go in there. He runs to that clearing and opens a hole to be able to see the sweet potatoes, and when he notices, he sees that it is really a sweet potato imbued with the energy of the blue moon. It is a sweet potato grown in the tower, nutritious and delicious, however. It becomes even tastier with the energy of the blue moon, and when consumed, it increases its strength, and the increase is 0.5 mana points permanently, and the protagonist is very happy with this achievement. And as the system identifies that he harvested a sweet potato imbued with the energy of the blue moon, he gets many class points, and his level 1 harvesting proficiency increases significantly, finally reaching the maximum level, and the level increases and he gains 50 experience points. And when he looks at the tomato, he also harvested, obtaining the fruits with the energy of the blue moon, and says that it is as if he has the world in his hands. But then, an additional mission appears for him, and he says he knew this would happen. And the additional mission is to offer the blue moon potato to the ADM, and failure is death, and he makes this very clear, and the mission begins. And he also wants the blue moon tomato, and neither of them will give any reward, but if he fails, he will receive death. And he is surprised that 2 missions came at the same time, and he came nevertheless, saying that maybe he will actually kill him if he refuses. And he says that in that case he will finish the last mission, telling him to get the rest of the magic cherry tomatoes. But with the mission completed, the administrator is happy with the basket of magic cherry tomatoes, but begins to murmur asking what it is, and that the protagonist says he takes back what he said about being simple, so he says he'll give it to him later, asking him to let it go for today. But the ADM continues to say that he needs to give him the sweet potato without fail, and the protagonist even agrees, and questions what he does with it, but he asks what else it would be, saying he'll eat it by throwing it in. And as soon as he eats it, he starts to shake all over, and talks about that sweetness and freshness, saying he can feel a festival in his mouth, and how he consumes that tomato with energy from the blue moon. His mana increases permanently, and he thinks he can't hold back, throwing that sweet potato into the fire to get it to the point of eating. And he says it's a shame he doesn't have aluminum foil there, but that's what onions are for, and says that as expected. Waiting for the food to be ready is very good, and so, while he waits, the blue moon goes away, and the rabbits prepare to leave with their family, and arriving outside, the father rabbit asks what the protagonist is doing, and he says that they arrived at the right time, presenting them with the sweet potato with energy from the blue moon, fully cooked and ready to eat, and he says that it is not much, but they will all eat together, and in this, everyone is on top of it. But the father rabbit asks them to wait, and the protagonist asks what was wrong. Then the father rabbit points to the protagonist saying something with his family. And the boy asks if the rabbit wants him to eat alone, simply because there is little, and he agrees with that. And the protagonist gets emotional with the father rabbit, saying that he is the only one who cares about the rabbit, saying that he is emotional. And while petting the father rabbit, he gets all silly, and he says that little does he know that he has already eaten the cherry tomato from the blue moon, and he says that he will eat it by throwing it inside, but they are both still hungry, and when he bites into it, it is very hot, and he regrets it immediately, burning his tongue, and he says that it ruined his taste. With the sweet potato falling around there, the 2 rabbits are tempted, and the father notices that there is a chance he will get something, but all the little ones take a piece for themselves and throw it inside, and they also end up suffering from how hot it was, and throw it outside once again, and no one can eat it, and the father is shocked by what happened, while the protagonist sees that his sweet potato almost goes down the drain. And it is said that that day he ate something very hot, and if he completely regretted it. And some time later, he talks to all the rabbits, saying that from that moment on, they will start planting sweet potato sprouts. The rabbits are surprised and look at him, and all the baby rabbits don't quite understand. The protagonist says that's right, the thing they just ate. That's why they are forbidden from eating the sprouts. All the little rabbits don't like this news at all. Then the protagonist says that sweet potato sprouts are the baby rabbit's favorite food, but he tells everyone that there's no point in them complaining, wanting him not to plant them. He says that if things continued like this, there would be nothing left, since they eat all day long. He says that they will have super delicious sweet potatoes for dinner, but if they help him with the sprouts, he will give them all special snacks. Asking what the little rabbits think, he says that he has decided to expand the sweet potato plantation area. He talks to the little rabbits trying to buy them with special snacks, and they really fall for this Vigarian story, and he calls everyone to work. while they find them very cute. And the bunnies really go to plant those sprouts, and he talks to his wife, asking if she can leave an onion standing, saying that he can get some seeds, flowering the onion, and he says that the more he plants, the greater the chance of them becoming items. And so, really, they go digging holes and planting little by little, placing and fertilizing calmly, and they work well, while the father comes watering right behind, and one of the cubs gets hungry to eat that sprout, and really sends it inside. But Luffy's rabbit goes there to beat his son, scolding him for having done that. And the protagonist continues harvesting his tomatoes along with them. While he goes harvesting those tomatoes, his level to harvesting proficiency increases slightly, and he gains class experience points. Plus he gains 10 experience points and levels up, gaining the bonus attribute. And it is said that his class points have reached the maximum, and he has gone up from level F Tower Farmer to level E Tower Farmer, and his class level has increased, and his skills have been strengthened. And the protagonist realizes that he has reached level 8, and his class has improved. And he says that at this rate, he can just keep planning, and says that he will make some snacks for now, sticking some tomatoes on a stick. And in this, the ADM continues to spy on what he will make that day. And the protagonist is surprised by that notification, and as soon as he looks at it, the notification disappears. And he notices that the ADM is spying on him, and he doesn't like it at all. But then, he calls the bunnies because it's time to eat, and they all gather around him, and he says that they will love this. And they are special skewers of tomatoes and cherries roasted with bones. And it is said that those tomatoes and cherries were roasted on piranha bones, which had already been well washed. And this makes the tomato sweeter, softer, and each of them receives a skewer to eat. And the protagonist says that it is easy to carry around while eating, and tells them to remember to blow on it before eating, because they are hot, and he says that they have already planted a lot of sweet potato sprouts, asking how about they dig more sweet potatoes, and so he wants to see how they are doing, and when he pulls, each one of those sprouts gives several sweet potatoes, so it is a sweet potato cultivated inside the tower, and when consumed, it will consume 10 grams of fat from your body and increase your strength by 0.1 for 10 minutes, and 10 effects can be highlighted within the period of 1 hour. And when consumed by an unawakened person, it will consume the 10 grams of fat and activate your digestion. Then he notices that he got 15 of them, coming 5 of them for each root, and he thinks that was very good for their first harvest. But he notices that there is a sweet potato sprout there next to it, and thinks it would be a waste not to plant it by placing it in the ground. So the system sends him a notification because he planted the sweet potato sprout, and the effects of Semi-R level 1 increase the possibility of the growth of sweet potato sprouts, and the proficiency of Semi-R level 1 increases slightly, and he is surprised that this counts as Semi-R, and finally realizes that he needs to plant them all to increase his level. So he asks all the bunnies to stop planting, telling them to let he does this. Meanwhile, the ADM is all happy, eating his tomato skewers, which he is also making, imitating the protagonist. He notices that they are bitter because he made it wrong, wondering what happened because the humans seem to have liked it. He says that the inside is sweet, so that's how it tasted, until he manages to make it, saying that it is delicious, and he says he will see what he is doing, looking at the protagonist. But while he looks, everyone is eating sweet potatoes, along with the protagonist. So he thinks that this is impossible because those bastards dared to roast sweet potatoes. Without him, the great black dragon, Eileen Fertani. Meanwhile, the protagonist is super cool with his family and parents, and an additional mission is initiated for him, and the mission is to offer strong roasted sweet potatoes to the tower administrator. The reward, once again, is none, but failure is supposed death, and the protagonist doesn't like this at all, and tells the ADM to come back another time, and he'll give him one. But then the system says that the ADM insists on a strong baked sweet potato, and he's saying that he won't leave him alone if he doesn't give him one. But the protagonist says that there's only one left, asking if he has anything as a reward. And Theon thinks for a moment and says he reviewed the quest, and the reward is a class-related skill. He notices that it's another skill, saying he can get sweet potatoes by completing the quest. The reward, when he opens it, is the seed shop. When the skill is activated, a product can be purchased from the seed shop once every 30 days. He's surprised by this, noticing that he can buy things inside the tower. He says that's amazing, asking how it can only give him this skill now. So he activates the seed shop, but when the system analyzes his purchase history, it notices that he doesn't have one. He says that of course he doesn't have something like that. Then he asks how to buy one, since he doesn't have any money. He asks if they can make an exchange. The system says they're happy to offer Sejun access to their services. They congratulate him on becoming the seed shop's first new customer. They'll then promote him with a coin, and a coin is deposited into his account, so he can buy, and he is surprised that the seed store is so generous, saying they are the best, and he notices that since he won a coin, this must be the currency used inside the tower, and if he is not mistaken, a coin cost about 1 million yuan. So he wonders what he can buy in the store, and the system says that since he is a novice level customer, 3 types of seeds chosen randomly will appear. So it generates the 3 random seeds of the day, and at his current level, can only buy 1 of them, and he can only buy in quantities of 1,000, which are 1,000 cabbage seeds, 1,000 red bell pepper seeds, and 1,000 carrot seeds. And he realizes that, as the name already indicated, it only sells in seeds, and his cost is 0. 1 tower currency, so it is 100,000 yuan for 1,000 seeds, and that is quite expensive. And he realizes that the red bell pepper and cabbage are very uncertain, since he can't make hot there, so only carrots are left. And when they hear about carrots, the bunnies really like them. And the protagonist asks what's wrong, and then to go talk to him. And he asks if bunnies like carrots, and they're both really happy to hear that name. And the protagonist repeats it just to see them get excited, and everyone wants him to buy carrots. And the protagonist keeps messing with them, wanting them to stay excited, but his father gets in his face and kicks him, telling him to buy them quickly. And he actually buys the carrot seed, and 10 cents of his currency were deducted from his account. And he got 1 mileage point in the seed bubble, and mileage points can be used to increase Park Sejong's level, and he needs 100 points to level up. So the seeds are given to the boy, and he says that it seems like the bag is more expensive than the seeds themselves. Then it is said that now he can only buy again within 30 days. And he questions why the system was happy with that. And the ADM says he is satisfied with his purchase, and so another day passes. And he says that they will start planting the carrots now, being happy that he got the carrot seed in the first exchange with the store. But while they are preparing to be able to plant, a bee appears there, curious with everything that the protagonist is doing there. And after planting the carrots, the couple of bunnies are all happy watching the carrots grow up close. And they can hardly wait, and they all stay full of love because of this. And the protagonist says that it's been a few days since he planted the carrots, and although the seeds haven't sprouted yet, they've been acting this way since the day they planted them, asking if they really like carrots that much. And he says he's going to take a nap, because he's going to pollinate the flowers and cut the onions in the afternoon. And he sleeps with a little bunny in his hand, but he sees something passing by, and it makes noise in his ear like a mosquito. And he starts shaking his hand trying to get that thing away, until he gets up very angry, asking if insects have started appearing there. But when he stops and looks at what's in front of him, it's a very cute little bee next to the protagonist, and that bee looks at him all cute, and he thinks she's very cute, wondering if she's some monster in insect form, wanting to attract her to him, already saying her name. But that one is a poisonous bee, and the system alerts him, doing that the protagonist is scared to death of this. And he tells everyone that it's dangerous, but the bunnies are already far away from that bee, running away, leaving the protagonist behind. And he says that those bunnies are just shameless, leaving him for dead, and asks how they can abandon him like that. Then the system warns that the ADM is saying that poisonous bees are carnivorous beings that hunt monsters with their poisonous stings, and then eat their flesh, and their stingers are very dangerous, and avoiding them is the best course of action. And the protagonist is very shocked that those bees eat meat, asking if they call something like that a bee, and asked it not to come near him, wanting to scare the insect away, and says that it's not tasty, and it's just bone, asking it to spare him. And the bee in his mind is full of hatred going towards him, until he picks up something on the ground, putting it in front of the bee, asking it to eat it. And it turns out to be a bunch of flowers that stop in front of it. The bee is curious about that, so it gets close to the flowers, and the protagonist ends up noticing that it didn't happen quite as he was imagining. And the bee starts eating the pollen from that flower, becoming very happy, completely different from what he was imagining the wild beast that it is. So he asks if the system didn't say it was carnivorous. And the protagonist ends up thinking of something, thinking about the humidity, and talks to the little bee, saying that if it's hungry, it can eat the other flowers, showing it several flowers around there, and telling it to jump in and devour them. And the bee is completely happy and going there in search of the pollen. And the protagonist thinks that at this rate he won't need to continue pollinating the cherry tomatoes. So he talks to the rabbits, saying that after they ignored him, they still have the courage to come back, saying they don't care. And he will continue to be upset, telling them to stop touching him. And everyone is wanting to ask forgiveness from the protagonist. And then the bee comes back there, and he asks if she's finished, and asks if she's not full, asking the bee not to get too close to him. But it turns out that the bee is all loving, stretching and lying on the boy's belly, and he wonders if she's going to sleep, finding her very cute. But he wonders if she's not going to sin against him and what seems his family. And the tower has just grown, and some time later, he continues planning and counting the days they is stuck there, and he notices that 120 days have passed since he got lost. And he continues planning and living peacefully with his family. And he tells everyone that he is busy there, asking the bunnies to go play somewhere else. And the bunnies are fighting in the middle of the plantation, and he notices that they are having a lot of fun, and he thinks that of course they need to enjoy their youth. And the bee has also become part of the family, and he asks if she has already sucked all the nectar for that day. And several weeks have passed since the arrival of that little bee, and he tells her that it is almost lunchtime, and she is already very affectionate with him. And he says that she works in the morning, sucks the nectar, and returns returns to the forest outside the cave in the afternoon, and he tells all the bunnies that it is lunchtime, and he thinks that maybe she is not returning to her group, and a few days ago, she started releasing honey like that, spitting on one of those little onions that became an item. Onion with honey, and the sweet flavor of the fresh, grilled green onion is intensified by the sticky honey of the poisonous bee, and the protagonist, upon eating it, noticed that it is very light and delicious, and he and the bunnies really liked it. The protagonist remembers that at first he had panicked, thinking that she was the poisonous one, but thanks to her, he was able to quickly expand the field to get the honey, and he is happy with this achievement, and thinks that in a few months he will get so much honey that the bears will be jealous of him. But then, the ADM says that he is happy for him, out of the blue, and the protagonist thinks he is strange. And when he turns around, the message disappears, and then he changes the subject, because stopping to think, he notices that it is not long before the blue moon, and says that this is the problem, because he hopes that nothing will happen this time either. So he starts putting things away to prepare for that moment, and thinks that it must be enough food that he has there, and says that the little bee has stopped, seeing, and she must also be getting ready for the blue moon. And all the bunnies are getting ready to go inside, and he notices that the bunnies seem to be more nervous than usual, so he notices that it's almost time, asking everyone to come inside quickly, but the bunnies aren't coming in this time, and they seem to be praying and hugging each other, and he finds this very strange, until both the father and mother run out, leaving the bunnies there, and he wonders what's going on, and the two stop at the door of his house, greeting everyone who was left outside, and simply closing the door. And the protagonist shouts to the two, asking about the babies, asking how they can leave them behind, because the blue moon is going to start. And before he can say everything, the blue moon takes over the sky, darkening the whole place, and he is scared to death. And at that exact moment, he hears the scream, and the cute little bunnies that were there change and become wild rabbits. And the protagonist wonders, what the hell is going on there? And the protagonist, seeing that the bunnies made a mistaken dose of trembolone, he starts to get scared, and they all go crazy, freaked out, wanting to fight everyone, totally aggressive. So, they digivolve near the protagonist, and they start to glow, and he almost goes blind with it. And the bunnies change a lot, reaching adult form and changing color, with one of them turning black, and the rest turning all white, and the protagonist can't believe what he's seen, noticing that they've become adult bunnies, and even their color has changed, and they all look different now. And he says that this is the 5th blue moon since they were born, and wonders if it's like a rite of passage for them, and they confirm it. And the protagonist says that he thought there was something wrong with them, and starts to cry, and the bunnies are shocked by this. And the black bunny goes to him, comforting the protagonist, and he says that they are so cute, calling all of them to receive kisses as punishment, and they even try to run away, but the boy manages to catch them and drag them there. And in the morning, when the moon goes down, the parents, they come out of the house, and the protagonist calls him along with all the bunnies around the fire, and the mother and father go to hug their babies who are there, and he says he's going to prepare a feast to celebrate. And one of the bunnies is all happy and summons a toy shovel, and the protagonist wonders what these things are, and one of them gets the white rabbit's scythe, the other the white rabbit's cart, and the third gets the white rabbit's watering can, along with the white rabbit's shovel. So he is surprised that they can summon items, and notices that when he becomes an adult farmer rabbit, they get their own item, and he can't borrow it, but he asks where the black rabbit's item is. And the black rabbit pulls out a sledgehammer, and he is surprised by this, because it doesn't look like a farm tool. And the black rabbit gets all cocky, and he notices that his name is the Black Warrior Rabbit, and he is all smug. Man, so cute. I think I'm going to adopt a rabbit. I really do. I'm seriously thinking about adopting a rabbit. And after a while, each of them is doing their own thing, and unlike their father, the little rabbit has a watering can that looks like a toy, and the rabbit with the scythe is helping his mother as best he can, cutting everything very well. And the little rabbit with the cart is helping by carrying the tomatoes, and the little rabbit with the shovel is in charge of digging holes. So the protagonist thanks one of them, asking them to put the tomato there, and her brings and stores everyone there. And he says that they started helping his parents on the farm, and he notices that those little babies that used to run around there are growing up, and he even thinks he's going to cry. But when he looks back, he thinks he doesn't know what to do with the warrior rabbit that's lying there, eating peacefully, and he wonders if he has nothing to do. And he thinks that if the rabbit is a warrior, his job is to fight. And since they're in the cave, no monsters will appear that harm the farm, so there's nothing to fight, and the warrior bunny really has nothing to do. And the protagonist realizes that the hammer can't be used on the farm, wondering what they should do, until the little bunny has an idea and goes near the river where they catch piranhas, showing it to the protagonist, and he says that it's true and he can hunt in the lake. because hunting is also a type of fighting, so he says that the rabbit can help, and he says that he will attract them with the torch, and he catches the piranhas, telling him to show the power of a warrior, and the little bunny is really determined, and the protagonist stays there, attracting the piranhas that jump so they can take his fire, and he calls the rabbit to come up, and he really hits that piranha with a sledgehammer, throwing it against the wall, but the blow is so strong that the piranha turns into ground meat and runs down the wall, leaving them in no condition to eat, and the protagonist is scared, while the little bunny is completely proud of what he did, but the protagonist is scared because the fish died at the same time, and it turns out that they have nothing to eat because it turned into sushi, and the atmosphere becomes horrible among all of them because that thing there is not edible, and he tells the warrior rabbit that he will have to improve and keep practicing doing this, but tells him not to be upset and to just eat what he has for now, and little by little, the rabbits get used to their roles, and then the rabbit the warrior is now able to kill the fish more easily, and on day 125, the seed shop reopened, and when he opens the shop, he notices that he will get 3 more seeds and asking what he can buy. This time, there are 10 watermelon seeds, 50 pumpkin seeds, and 200 corn seeds, but this time, each of them has a very different price, with the watermelon costing 5 coins, the pumpkin costing 1, and the 200 corn seeds costing only 50 cents, and he is surprised, because the prices this time are completely different from the last seeds, and he notices that he only has 9 coins and he will only be able to buy the corn seeds, wondering what to do, because if they keep getting more expensive, he won't be able to buy them next time, and he thinks that the biggest problem is that he doesn't know how to get more coins, and so it is said that there is a reward for finishing a floor, and although it is a good amount, you can only get 1 reward per floor, and because of that, the hunter's profit margin is not that high, and the second method is hunting monsters, and selling the monster parts to merchants or at the store on the first floor, and this is the best way for hunters to profit, since they can continue to profit, and the third method is completing missions to get rewards, and he notices that the mission reward changes a lot, and it is difficult to get coins, and among those 3 options, finishing a floor is impossible for him, and he can't even escape from that cave, and the only option left for him is the missions that the administrator from the tower gives him, and he asks if the ADM can give him liston, asking if he can be rewarded with tower coins for completing his missions. But the DNA responds by saying that he doesn't understand, but that maybe he will understand when he grows up. Then he realizes that he doesn't know the tower coins themselves, becoming curious about what he said about understanding when he grows up, asking how old the DNA is. So he simply says that it's a secret, and the protagonist questions how many years he has left until he grows up, and he says that he will need to wait at least 300 years. But the boy asks if he is joking with him, because then he will need to postpone the reward of coins that he should receive and pass from generation to generation until eventually his 7th generation of grandchildren receives it. Besides, he remembers that there is no situation in which he can raise descendants, and thinks that the situation is so bad that it is he who loses if he gets angry, and thinks that he will prioritize what he can do for his survival, and the only item he can buy is corn seeds, and it's not like corn is a bad choice. Then he remembers that it is delicious steamed or grilled. He can also grind it into flour and make something like bread, and he just doesn't know if it would work, and says he's going to choose the seeds, buying 200 corn, so 50 cents were deducted from his account, and he gets 5 points at the seed store, which he can use again in 30 days. And when the seeds arrive, he asks the father rabbit what he thinks, because they look good. So he gets ready to start, but before that he's starving. He calls everyone to eat something, making a little fish for everyone, and after eating he gets so full that he can't eat anything else, and he says he thinks he'll dry the rest so he can save it. Then he notices the little bee coming back there and talks to it, saying that it has been staying in the cave a lot these days, asking if it will be okay if it doesn't come home. So it starts rubbing against him, and he says that it's okay if it doesn't want to come back, because he will be happy to have it there, until the little bee hears a noise and picks it up in its antennas, and she soon goes into battle mode, going to see what that noise is, and the warrior rabbit also stays alert looking up there, and the protagonist wonders if it is a monster, and the warrior rabbit starts screaming that thing. Then that invader asks them not to misunderstand, saying that it is not a shameless cat that came to steal their food, and the protagonist is surprised that it is a cat, questioning why it came, and the cat jumps from up there, down there, landing on its feet in front of him, introducing itself, asking if by any chance he is the customer Pax Sejun. Then he says his name is Theo, and he is a merchant, and that day, he met a merchant cat for the first time, and the protagonist is surprised to meet Theo, noticing that he is a merchant, and he says he heard that sometimes while climbing the tower, it was possible to find one, but he didn't imagine there would be merchant cats, and he notices those bright eyes and those chubby, soft cheeks. Man, he looks so much like my cat. And he also notices that soft little paw, wanting him to need the bread, and he says that now they've gone too far, and it can only be fraud, because Sejun really likes cats. So the cat continues calling the protagonist, and he says he's right, introducing himself to the kitten, asking what he wants. And he says to her that a new rookie was shopping at the seed store, and says he came there to greet him and do business. And the protagonist questions him about it, and the cat says he has an item he will love, and starts to take something out of his bag, but his meat bag starts to rumble, and he apologizes, saying he hasn't eaten anything today, and ended up showing something embarrassing in front of a customer. And seeing the kitten all embarrassed, the protagonist saw an opportunity, asking Tell if he would like to eat a grilled fish. And the cat really likes it, so the protagonist says he knows what he wants, while he is flirting with the fish. But Tell for some reason controls himself, saying he doesn't need to, and he can't touch the customer's food. But then the protagonist questions if he really doesn't want to, because the smell of the sweet, tender meat, grilled on the fire, must be calling him, and he says that the fish has a divine taste, and no cat could miss this opportunity, questioning if he is sure, telling the cat that he can keep telling him to eat a little. And the cat ends up giving into temptation and eats it all, and says it was very tasty, and now his stomach is full. Then the protagonist says that he ate 5 fish and must have been very hungry, and the cat gets up to thank him for receiving him with such hospitality, saying that he does not know how he could thank him. But the protagonist says that he is grateful because he came there just to find him, and with that the cat goes to business. But the protagonist charges 50 cents in coins from the tower, and the cat questions how it is. And the protagonist says that he needs to pay for the roasted fish, and Tell asks if it was not free, but the protagonist says that nothing is free in this world, and he questions if the cat did not say that he came there to do business, and asks if he will not eat the customer's fish, and simply runs away. Then all the rabbits start to surround the cat, and the cat really gives the coins of the protagonist, which he kind of extorted, and he thanks him, saying that he got more coins and is all happy. And the cat says that he came there to take the client's money, but instead he lost the money, and the business that already started in the red is not very good, and he thinks that he cannot be defeated like this, and he has to sell his things. So the cat says that now it's his turn, asking him to look at what he has to offer, and asked what he thinks, saying that they are the successes of the other floors. It is a thermos bottle that cost 5 coins, a mini fan that cost 5 coins, and also a hand warmer, which cost 5 coins. But he asks if these are not items from outside the tower, and the cat is all convinced that he noticed, and says that this bottle has magical preservation, and if you put hot or cold things in it, the temperature does not drop, and it is an excellent item. And that mini fan has a magical enchantment, and if you press the button, it starts to release wind. But the protagonist stops the cat, saying that he's sorry to cut him in half, but all those items he brought are trash, and he questions how they are trash, asking what the protagonist is talking about, since they are items from outside the tower, asking how he can't recognize their value. But the protagonist says that it is also from outside the tower, and the cat is very surprised by this, and he says that there is nothing magical there, and it is a thermos, and it preserves the temperature by blocking the outside contact, and if it turns on the mini fan and the hand warmer for a few hours, it will stop working because the battery will run out. But the cat says that this is not true, and Scarin assured him that they were magical items. But then the protagonist questions if he is seen, because the fan's battery is already dead. But he says that this is impossible, asking why it stopped, asking the fan to move. And the protagonist says that he thinks he was deceived by that Scarin guy who sold him those things, and he can't believe it, because that Scarin was very kind to him, and starts to cry. And the protagonist questions what happened, because he changed the way he speaks, and the cat continues crying, saying that Scarin is a terrible goblin, wondering why he is always being tricked. Then the protagonist talks to Theo, asking if he could explain what happened. Then Theo says that he is from the 65th floor, and it is one of the neutral zones of the tower. Then he says that for a long time he admired Meryl, the most beautiful girl in the Grana village, and then he goes to her, saying that he likes her. He sees a girl, asking if she could go out with him, confessing with a bouquet of fish in her hand. But then she becomes disgusted with him, getting pissed off by the smell of cheap fish, throwing his fish on the floor, and he questions what she is doing, saying that he worked hard to get those fish. But just then, another cat arrives, laughing at Theo, saying that he should know his place, asking how dare he try to win over Meryl. Then he notices that it is Oren, the son of the richest cat in the village, with a huge fish in his hand, and he asks how he could give a 5th grade fish to this young lady, saying that he should at least bring a high-quality salmon as a gift. She is very touched, and Theo says that Meryl doesn't like fatty food because she is afraid of getting fat, but she apparently really likes the big fish, and he is shocked by this. So the rich cat calls Meryl to his house so he can eat the salmon there. So Theo asks her to wait, taking her hand, her asking Meryl to come back, and he asks her to remember all the things they lived together, their memories, and asks if none of it was sincere, and questions if it was all just a lie, asking her to look into his eyes, and swears she doesn't feel the same. Then he talks about those unforgettable days he spent with her, but she simply pulls his hand away with a huge repulsion from Theo, questioning what he's talking about, telling that street cat to get a grip, saying she only smiled at him a few times and he became completely delirious and continued following her even when she said she didn't like him. And she says that every time he meets her it's a pain, saying she's already told him not to follow her, and says she hates poor cats that smell like cheap sardines, and he falls into complete despair. That this people, damn, is complicated, right? It's that thing, oh, or not you, already have it. He went after the humiliation, right? He has to make a name for himself. And he says that after Mary was taken by Warren, the son of the richest cat in the village, he left there crying, and says that he decided to run away and become a merchant, with the determination to get rich and get his revenge. And they are all very tense with that story. And he says that he even bought the merchant's license and the necessary equipment to become a merchant using his savings of 50 coins. He was going to buy something from the street vendor to resell with the 5 coins that were left. And then the goblin came to him asking if he's a new merchant, introducing himself as Scarum, saying that if he has any questions he can talk to him. Then he says he met Scarum in that place, and he talked about the items outside the tower, and Scarum told him that they are very valuable items, and says that if he takes these items to the upper floors, he will be able to make a lot of profit. And the creatures there collect these things as some kind of hobby, but he questions why he is selling such good items for such a bargain, and the goblin says it's because he liked him, and they can say that it's the goodwill of a veteran who wants to train a new merchant. It's not possible. The little creature is very stupid, man. He fell for that talk. No, people. If a seller wants to sell you something with that kind of talk, there's a 200% chance that you're buying shit at a gold price. And the goblin says that if he doesn't want it, it's fine with him. He can talk to another merchant using another cheap tactic, and the cat says no, saying he'll buy it. And the goblin says that since he's in a good mood, he'll give him a bonus. And this is the map with the location of a new customer at the seed shop. And since he's a new member, he'll be able to make a lot of profit if he's lucky. And since he's giving him other information, the beer that day is on him, asking if everything is okay. Then the cat says of course, and so he says that he gave all his money to this guy to pay for the items, hoping to be able to sell those items there. He almost died of hunger and barely got there, but all those things are trash. Besides, the customer took the little bit he still had, finally admitting that he's completely useless, and the protagonist thinks to himself that that cat is very stupid, but he thinks he's got an idea, noticing that there is indeed a way for him to get coins in that tower. And he asks Telsa to calm down, asking why he doesn't cheer up by eating a baked fish. But the cat is a little smarter this time, questioning if he is offering food just for him to charge later, saying he's not stupid. But Sejun says no, saying he can stay. He might even consider returning the coins, and the cat asks if he's serious. But he says that in exchange, he asks if he thinks he can work with them, and he says that that day he found a guy, actually a partner. And the protagonist asks him what the cat thinks. Yeah, look, the dream of the oppressed is to be the oppressor. He was there being robbed by the DM, and he was pissed. Now that he saw a cat a little more weakened in intelligence, he wants to sign a CLT with him, and the cat is surprised that the protagonist wants them both to work together, and the boy says that's right. And it turns out he needs a merchant to sell his items, so the cat asks him if he thinks he's good enough for that, questioning if he didn't hear his story, and says that he is nothing more than a novice and useless merchant. But the protagonist says that he definitely has a future, despite having made some mistakes, and says that he managed to convince him to be his business partner with the stories he told him, so he is surprised by this. And the protagonist says that he wants to be a business partner, calling all the rabbits, and they have already prepared to chairs for the two to talk a little, and they sit down to negotiate, and the little rabbits stay there creating atmosphere. And the protagonist talks about those things that he bought, questioning if he couldn't sell them because he was cheated, and now he doesn't have the money to start a new project. And the cat agrees with him, and the protagonist says that's exactly why he's making him a business proposal which can be advantageous for both of them, and says it's simple. He takes his items and sells them to other people, and he'll offer a percentage of the profits as an incentive. And the cat questions about this incentive, and the protagonist says that if he needs to sell the items above the price, and says that of course he can sell them for a much higher price, and he was born for this, so he'll keep 3 to 5% of the value of the items he sells. And meanwhile the bunnies are roasting fish to be able to serve, so the cat is surprised and will only earn 3 to 5%, and notes that the conditions are terrible for him. And he questions if Sejun thinks he's stupid enough to be tricked like that, but the protagonist says who forgot to tell him the most important part, and he asks the rabbits to bring the main incentive, and says that his deal doesn't end there, and he will pay him with 10 grilled fish, or the equivalent in coins per week. So the cat is very surprised, and the protagonist says that these are the terms and conditions of the proposal he is offering him, and the cat asks if he will get grilled fish too, and the protagonist asks what he thought, wondering if the cat wants to sign the contract with him, but the cat in his mind starts to deny, wondering if he forgot what happened in the past, remembering all three that ended his life, and he thinks he must be smart because he can't be fooled again, but still he is dying to eat that fish. And he says that only if he gives him 20 fish, he will reconsider. And the protagonist sees that he fell into his role, saying that it's okay. And since he is in a good mood, he won't give him just 20 fish, he will give 5 more. And the cat is even more surprised because it will be 25 grilled fish. And the protagonist says that in addition to the weekly payment, he will be able to eat as much grilled fish as he wants while he is there. And the cat becomes even more surprised by the conditions. And he says that he can eat as much as he wants. And the cat ends up falling for the chat. And the protagonist asks if he has the paper there. And the cat says yes, he does. So he starts to write the contract, and they both sign it and make the deal. Then the cat says that he didn't even realize it was the contract because he was too excited, but the signature is already there. And the paper disappears from in front of him while he asks the paper to wait, but the tower system makes a lifetime distribution contract. The objective and content of the contract, and that its purpose, is for Party A and Party B to cooperate mutually in the promotion and sale of Party A's harvest to obtain benefits for each party, and the remuneration will be 25 grilled fish, or equivalent money per week. And the special conditions are that Party B will receive Party A's harvest as an initial deal, and the contract will be terminated if the total amount of sales falls below 5 tower coins per month, and Party B must sell the harvest for a value equal to or greater than the said value. And without Party A's permission, Party B cannot create any additional accounts. Other than that, Party B must use the NHNA accent to sell the items. And in that, the cat, upon reading that, is shocked. And the protagonist says that he heard that inside the tower, the contract is one of the most important documents. So much so that it cannot be destroyed, and so the cat is shocked, wondering how he signed his first contract like that. And the protagonist says he was wondering why they made it so difficult to erase or change, but now he understands because that way he is more effective and respected, and that is very smart. But the cat questions that fourth clause, the special conditions, asking how come with an HNA accent, wondering if he needs to use the dialect of a cat, saying that this is a bit embarrassing, but the protagonist just laughs, saying that he will understand when the time comes, and they will get along. But Tel says that there is no way to know if he will do well or not, because there is still the first clause of the special conditions, and it means that if he does not sell well, he can terminate the contract. But the protagonist asks him to relax because he will sell well, and he believes in Tel, the true ingenious, and he starts to pet the kitten, and Tel falls for the Sejun talk when called ingenious, saying that he loved it, and that the protagonist realizes that the kitten is too simple. But he asks the boy what kind of thing he's going to sell, and the protagonist simply says that they are cherry tomatoes, and the cat doesn't quite understand. When the boy picks it up, he's surprised that it's that thing, as it's a magical item that increases his mana by 0.1 for 10 minutes. So he asks how much he intends to sell it for, saying that if he's lucky, he'll get 0.01 tower coins each. And for awakened people who have recently entered the tower, that's too much. But the protagonist says that it's not even 0.05 for each one, and he questions what idiot would buy that. But Tel ends up thinking that maybe it's better this way, as the contract will end if this month's sales are less than 5 coins. Besides, he'll be able to eat the grilled fish in the meantime. But then he gets straight to the point with Sejun, and since it's the first sale of the contract, he asks how many he should take, and the protagonist says that he should take 1,000 with him, and he has already prepared the 25 grilled fish for that week, but asks how he will carry it, and he says he will put it in his item, the big package. This big package has preservation magic, space expansion magic, and magic that will make it light. He can store many things in it, and still they will remain in their original state for a long time. So he throws that cloth over the things and collects everything on top of the bag, and the protagonist thinks this is too convenient, and the cat puts the backpack on his back, saying he is going to leave. While he leaves, the whole family stays behind greeting him. And so, a few days later, on the 38th floor of the tower, a group of people are fighting a gigantic spider with a beating, and one of them shouts that there is only one missing, trying to attack that spider, which goes for the tank with everything, and the wizards stay behind throwing fireballs at that thing, until that tank manages to finish off the monster by ripping off its head with a single attack, and they say it was the desperation of the Phoenix Guild leader, Kingdom Sheik, and they claim they knew he would finish it off with that skill. But he asks everyone to stop praising him, saying they are going to get ready to leave, especially Jessica, saying he won't let it go if she steals like last time, and she talks to the leader, saying that he loves her. Then he notices that the girl is being a cheat, but in that, a bush behind him starts to move, and they already start to prepare for the fight, asking who it is. Then Theo appears talking to the humans, asking if they would like to see some quality products. They are surprised that it is a cat, and Notice that it is a merchant cat. Then he says it is a pleasure to meet them, talking to Nia. And all the girls get emotional when he tells Nia, saying it is cute, and he starts to ask if it is cute for her, still imitating the kitten. And they talk about that little paw. Then he remembers Sejun, telling him not to forget to say that when talking to humans, saying that it will help to get attention, and he realizes that it was really for that. And seeing that he got everyone's attention, he asks everyone to see what he brought, putting the cherry tomatoes in front, and everyone wonders what it is. But they are disappointed to see that he came there to sell food. And the leader says that if he is going to sell food, it should be something like bread or meat. And cherry tomatoes are kind of so-so. So the cat frames them everyone, saying they knew they would say that, saying that they are cherry tomatoes different from what they know. And the wizard is interested, and he asks them to analyze it. Then they wonder if it is an item, and when the wizard analyzes it, he is surprised that it increases 1 mana for 10 minutes and says that this is very low, asking how much it cost. And the cat says that it is 5 coins per unit, and the wizard questions if he has gone crazy because he prefers to buy equipment than spend his hard-earned coins on this. So he says it was a waste of time. But one of the girls continues analyzing the text and notices that if she eats that, she will lose 10 grams of fat. So both the muscular leader, the other girls are interested in this and question what she said, realizing that they will lose weight just by eating that. And they are surprised that you can eat 10 per hour. So the leader already asked to buy 200, but says he will buy everything he has. And the other says she wants 100 too, and the cat is surprised. And everyone starts fighting over it, but the cat asks them to form a line, and everyone wonders if they should buy it. Meanwhile, the Prota is harvesting and leveling up, even getting bonus attributes. Then he wonders if Theo is doing well, that he thinks he must have met with the hunters by now. And at first glance, the magic cherry tomatoes may seem like an item to buff your magic, but they automatically dissolve 10 grams of fat and revitalize the body, and are the best product for weight loss, and not to mention that they have no side effects, and besides, they are super tasty. And the leader says he has no doubt that it will sell a lot because he trusts the diet of the land, and in turn, Theo, after talking to those adventurers, is surprised that he sold everything. Everything he took. Wow, it's not for nothing, but to dilute 10 grams of fat, 100 grams of fat per hour just eating tomatoes, my friend, what I would buy of that is bullshit. If I could plant something like that, I would form an empire, it would form an empire that would go head to head with growth, sell that at the gym's door, or in the United States, where people are a little rich and eat very badly. Wow, I would become one of the first trillionaires in the world. So, in the meantime, the protagonist is analyzing the carrot sprouts. He assumes they're around 70%. And of the 1,000 carrot seeds he bought and decided to plant, only 700 actually germinated. While of the 1,200 magic cherry tomato seeds he decided to plant after harvesting, only 732 managed to sprout and grow. He says the germination rate of the corn and sweet potato seeds he bought at the seed store and planted himself is around 60% to 70%. And the germination rate of carrots and tomatoes is quite similar. He says it would be great if they germinated more, but perhaps better when they're at half the level, or perhaps the soil inside the cave isn't very fertile. He says he'll keep trying for now, as he should be able to find a better way to grow them later. And since they now have a hotel to help them with the tower's coins, they need to harvest as much as possible. Then, he notices something happening, and behind him is the warrior bunny throwing a torch into the air, attracting the attention of several piranhas. When they emerge from the water, he manages to kill them all in a flurry of attacks and farm alone. He notices that the black rabbit seems to have gotten really good at hunting, and he's all smug, until it starts glowing like a Pokemon. He wonders if the rabbit has leveled up. He congratulates the bunny, saying he's seen the others level up several times while farming, but this is the first time he's seen this happen to him, saying he's gradually becoming a true hunter, and he gets all goofy with his brothers. He asks how about they take a break, calling everyone to have some coffee, and indeed, there was coffee inside the cup. And he wonders about the goblin who tricked Tel, who was Scarum, and says that it seems they didn't even open the magic cup, because if Tel sold that coffee, maybe he would have spent all his money buying it, and thanks to their stupidity, he got that beauty for free, and says that even though they don't have magic fabrics to boil water, much less ice cubes to make an iced Americano, and that right there is a luxury, and he thanks the bee for always being able to give him honey, and it's ready, a Melicano, a combination of instant coffee, dissolved in the fresh water of the cave, mixed with the dense honey from venomous bees, creating a perfect harmony between the bitter and sweet taste that with just a small sip, that combination can relieve fatigue and hunger, and the protagonist, drinking it, thinks that the Melicano is too good, asking if they want to try some, and that the black rabbit takes it and doesn't like it at all, spitting it out along with his little brother, and the protagonist begins to assume that rabbits' tongues are more sensitive to bitterness than humans. Meanwhile, the bee begins to fly over him, going to the hive she herself planted, and he calls the poison his little bee, and she looks at him all happy, showing off her new home. The protagonist protagonist questions if that's a hive, asking if she decided to live with them, and she agrees with that. Then the protagonist says it was sad that she had to come home every time for dinner, and says that he can finally feel like they're a family, and says that now they're going to have a party. But the ADM gives him a new mission, asking him to give her 10 cherry tomatoes, with failure being a disappointment. And the protagonist says that by staying ahead after the mission, he thinks he started to realize something after seeing his deal with Tel, and the threats like, "Give it to him or I'll kill you," disappeared, and now he asks him with that sad expression, and maybe he started to like him as much as he despises him, and says he'll give some, and offers it to him. The ADM thanks the protagonist for his kindness, and he's surprised that now he's thanking Tel, saying that that's good to hear, but he notices something, noticing that he just acted like a free-ass kisser. Meanwhile, there with the goblin, there are 2 others, and he's annoyed that that cat hasn't returned yet, and he wonders if he's talking about that ass-kissing cat who bought his items last time, and he says he's very cunning, saying that he sold his junk to that sucker, and says he has to learn some tricks from him, asking if by any chance he's looking for that cat, and he says that he spent all his money buying his items, and despite having passed for a long time, he didn't return to the merchant guild to say that he couldn't sell them. And then the other goblin asks if Scrum is worried, asking what he'll do if he really comes back. Scrum says that since he's a nice guy, he won't be able to pretend he didn't see him, and was thinking of buying a vase of milk, telling him about an opportunity, and then lending him his money. And the other goblin asks what he's talking about, and so he says that this way, his poor kitty would have to work hard to pay back the money he lent, but he won't be able to pay back that debt, much less the incessant interest, and in the end, he'll become your slave until death, a slave for life. My friend, this goblin there, I think he's quite inspired by the joke, that thing where you take money and you can't pay it back. And so, the others think that Scrum is a genius, and the other asks if it wouldn't be better to find him soon, because it's not easy to get one. This ass-kisser is one of them these days. But Scram says they still have plenty of time, saying they shouldn't go after the target recklessly. And the other goblins with him continue to kiss Scram's ass, and he says he's starting to get thirsty, saying he'll take a look at the merchant sales rankings today. So they say it's true, saying they usually update around this time. And so, Scram says he finally entered the top 1,000, and his ass-kissers are happy that he reached position 999, and they say they're not even in the rankings, and Scram says it's worth stealing coins from the ass-kissers, and says he'll take a look at the people he'll pass. But he notices something strange, wondering what the point of this is, since Tel is in position 982 with 50 coins, and they question if this isn't the cat, realizing that his ranking is higher than Scram's, and he gets very pissed about it, because he is sure that the cat was unable to sell it, wondering what Tel is up to. Meanwhile, he returns to the protagonist all happy, and Seiya asks where he was, and he says he apologizes and says that next time, even if he sells everything, he will not have fun on the other floor and will go straight back. And the protagonist questions how so, wondering if he was having fun and for how many days. Then he says it was for days. So, says he told him it would take at least 10 days to get to the 31st floor. But is surprised he had time to have fun for days, even after selling everything. So Tel says he's sorry, and the protagonist says he thought it would take a few days to sell everything, but since he came back in for days, it means he sold everything as soon as he got there, and he talks to Tel, saying that if he doesn't want to see the scary side of part A, he questions why he doesn't tell him the details, already in a very scary way. And Kat is scared to death, agreeing with the protagonist, and after sitting down, he tells Sejun everything. Then he asks if Kat is saying he just talked to them a little, and the hunters bought everything, and he says that's what happened, and says that there are the 50 coins, and the protagonist really tells him, saying that Tel did a good job, saying that there are his 2 incentive coins, but Tel asks if it wasn't Kat. The salesman Tel ingenious, but the protagonist says he was demoted, asking what kind of cat vendor will play for days instead of returning right away, saying that if he works hard next time, he can consider returning his position, and will also increase the incentive rate by 5%. Tel agrees with him, saying that he will strive to become a worthy cat vendor. Then the protagonist questions why he is still talking like that using Nia, and he says that he decided to live like this, because it seems that humans like it more. And the protagonist just lets the cat do whatever he wants, and is happy, because soon, everyone will know his name. But Tel questions how so, and he says that the name of his farm is written in the description of the cherry tomatoes, and that is why people will soon find out who grew the tomatoes. But then Tel is quite surprised, because he screwed him over completely. He explains that there is a system for beginning merchants that hides the strength and origin of their goods, and the policy is designed to prevent rich street vendors from selling their products, steal the suppliers of the beginner merchants. And since Tel is still a novice merchant, Sejun's name as the cultivator of the goods has been covered, and if he finds out about this, he will be very angry, and instead of being an employee, he may end up being demoted to a simple part-time employee. And the protagonist asks Tel if something happened, and He is full of fear, saying it is nothing, asking him to pass the cherry tomatoes that he will leave right now. And the protagonist questions him about wanting to go already, telling him to rest for a few days, as he also needs to receive his weekly payment, but he says it is better to work. And since he is busy, he wants to take everything and leave, and he says he needs to hurry to remove the name restriction, as the only way to do this is to quickly get 1,000 coins and become an intermediate level traveling merchant. And the protagonist notices that he has become committed along with the warrior rabbit, who is also finding this strange. And already in the real world, a group of people are talking, and so that guild leader receives a message from his daughter telling him that the effects of that tomato are great, and all his friends are jealous, asking if he will buy more for her. And he is all happy with the girl, and they ask the leader Dom Cheek what happened, and he says that his daughter was always irritated because of the diet, and she said she loved the tomatoes, and he says he only bought 20 units and left the rest for the other team members. And he says he didn't know she would like it so much, saying he should have bought more. But then he asks if he's talking about the serious tomatoes that guy was selling, saying he doesn't understand why all the girls are so obsessed with it. And so one of them says he gave the tomatoes to his girlfriend and they're now dating, and the other asks if it's serious, and another says he also bought some but hasn't used them yet, and that other guy who's in a dry spell asks him to sell them, and the third says to sell them to him, saying he'll give him 100,000 won for each one. But at that, the leader asks them to calm down, saying they can't do things like that, and tells them to call the others, and they go to the 38th floor now. But one of them tells the team leader, saying it hasn't been long since they went to the tower, saying they won't be able to get everyone together, and they'll complain. But at that, a girl arrives there. Actually, the 3 girls arrive saying they're ready, and Jessica and the others arrive out of nowhere, already with the chip up to date. And one of them says that they have already prepared the tower coins so they can buy the tomatoes. That is, go on the expedition to the tower, and she says they are ready for the tomatoes, but they try to correct it so as not to make it so obvious, saying they are ready to defeat the spiders, and the boss calls everyone to the pot, and he says he will get more of that magical cherry tomato, and he will become a great father, and he says he wants to achieve this, no matter what it takes. And already in the tower, the cat is all downcast, wondering when he will be able to sell a total of 1,000 coins, and says that the maximum cherry tomatoes he can carry is 1,500, and if he keeps selling like this, he will need to go back and forth about 10 times. But he just thinks that he should focus on making as much money as possible for now, and wonders if that wasn't where those humans were gathered last time, until the humans themselves find the kitten, and then they shout that they found the cat, calling everyone. And Theo asks if they were looking for him, and the boy confirms that yes, saying that they didn't know when he would return, and they had been waiting there for 3 days, asking if they had magic cherry tomatoes, and the cat is surprised that they had been there for 3 days just to buy those tomatoes. And then the boy asks if the tomatoes still cost 0.05 coins, but the cat apparently is smarter, asking them to stop, saying that in fact the price has already gone up, and the boy is surprised that this happened. And the boss asks what these are like, asking if something happened, and the cat says that's it. And the boy says that what it looks like, the price of cherry tomatoes has already gone up, and he asks how much they cost now, and the cat says that they're 0.7 coins each, so he wonders if it has gone up a lot, but the leader doesn't care about it, saying that everything is fine, saying he'll want 100, and the cat is surprised, while the human gang thinks it would be strange if such a good item was very cheap, and thinks that if they can't buy it this time, who knows when they'll get it. And they ask the cat for a large quantity, and he notices that he's already sold everything, and thinks that even raising the price, he still managed to sell all 1,500 tomatoes. And so the leader asks the cat when he'll be back, and he asks if they'll wait for him again, saying he'll be back in about 10 days, and so he says that's a good time interval between their missions, saying that's okay, they'll come back and buy more cherry tomatoes in 10 days, and tells them to hurry up in finishing the spider missions and leaving off the tower. So he's all happy that he's got regular customers, and thinks that at this rate, he'll be able to collect 1,000 coins quickly. And he thinks he needs to become a mid-rank market soon, so he can reveal the name of his supplier, and thus go back to being a selling cat. But then another girl talks to the kitten, and he finds it strange, and the girls wonder if it looked like them, asking what she thinks, and they say it was very similar. And he says his name isn't Cat, and his name is Tell, and introduces his breed to the kitten, and he asks what it looked like, and she says it looks a lot like a cat she knows. And he says she must be mistaken, because he's the only pretty cat in this world, saying he's busy and needs to go. But then they ask him to wait, offering him some cat food, asking if he doesn't want to cry. And the cat wonders what that is, but he doesn't eat anything but fried fish. But then then, when he sticks his tongue out, he gets crazy, wondering what flavor this is. Because even though it smells like fish, it tastes like nuts and melts in your mouth, and notices that he ate it all, asking if she has more, and she pulls out several other flavors, and he says he wants more, asking her to give him, and she says of course, saying that she will give him if he takes a picture with her. And Theo, once again, falls for the human's talk, but says that she has to give him all of them, and with that, he agrees to take a picture with the girls, and they leave him and leave, only with the pictures. Then they say that it is the first time they have seen someone bring cat treats to the tower, but they say that he is more forced than they said, and they say that it is good to see him smiling, asking if she will come back to see him next time, and the girl confirms this, saying that of course she will come back to take more pictures with the kitten. Okay, I guess I'm a little paranoid here in my paranoia, because I thought this girl would be evil, but apparently she's just a cat lady, and I'd probably take a picture with my cat like that if he posed. And then, over at the protagonist hole, the black rabbit is swimming, and he says that right now he's giving the black rabbit special swimming training, but he raises the question of whether anyone is asking if he's dangerous because of the piranhas. But he's just asking the bunny to relax his body and stretch his onion forward, saying that he's doing very well swimming, and he says that of course for safety reasons. He saw the hole where the piranhas pass through, and he says that he's checked a few times, but he still gets a little nervous in there. And he says that now the rabbit can try to swim without holding on, saying that he's doing much better than the last time, when he almost drowned by jumping into the water in celebration for his partner, saying that he was in shock because he thought the piranhas were going to eat him because he saw the rabbit practicing the spawn body swim, and he got a big scare. And he thinks that just remembering it makes his heart race. And the rabbit gets all silly apologizing for what he did. Meanwhile, the chubby brother and the shovel brother enjoy the water, and he says he wants to eat some sweets after teaching in the water, and he wonders where the honey is, but realizes that it is empty apparently. He has already eaten all the honey he collected last time, and he wonders about the little bee because it hasn't come out much since it moved a few days ago, wondering if something happened. But then he notices that there is something different, realizing that there are several other little bees that are in your home after birth, and notices that it's been so long since he checked that it seems like the number of babies has increased a lot, wondering if they are all children of the little bee because he didn't even notice, and says that it's been a long time since he saw her, and says that he wanted to congratulate her, but he can't visit without a gift. So he calls the little bee with several flowers there, asking if she can come for a second, and says that he has a gift for his hive, but several bees come towards him, ready to be able to duplicate him, and he asks what they want and tells them not to do that because they are not enemies. And inside, the mother bee realizes what is going on, and he asks the black rabbit not to fight them because they are almost attacking him. And so when they come up, the protagonist is scared, but realizes that they have stopped, and when he looks up, he wonders if by chance, is that the one that is happening? What's up guys? They put it there, formed a node, gave to mattresses to the bee. Oh my god, what I'm seeing is impossible, man. There's no one with a cute little animal that doesn't turn into a girl. What's happening with the Asians? Man, it's not possible. Everything has to turn into a waifu. And he's quite surprised by the little bee that's looking at him, all cute, and she's turned into a poisonous queen bee. Approaching her, she's the size, oh my god, the size of a bee. Oh my god, what am I recording? And the protagonist is quite surprised, as is the warrior rabbit. He wonders if this really is the little bee he knows. And in this, he's explained about poisonous bees, which are carnivorous insect-type tower monsters that hunt their prey using their venom. That's basically all he knows about them. But the dragon is reading a bit about, saying that there's no adequate explanation for a situation like this in the tower management guide, but he thinks that since it is not dangerous, he will just keep an eye on them for now. And later he asks his grandfather about it, and besides, even if it is not something simple, there is a solution. So the bee gets close to the protagonist, who asks if it is really her, that tiny and cute poisonous bee, and she gets all happy, and he talks about her appearance is scared as the warrior rabbit, and he notices that she has changed. Man, she is sensualizing him. My Jesus in heaven, I will not be able to continue, man, my god, what am I recording? What am I doing with my life anyway? And the protagonist says that after the day she ate the nectar from the Sejun cave for the first time, every time she ate, her body gave off a strong smell and her weight increased a little, which made the queen bee notice her. However, she quickly realized the reason for the change in the queen's attitude, because it turns out that she became able to lay eggs. And at that moment, the little bee decided to become independent, leaving that hive, and she made a hive inside the Sejun cave, the safest place she could imagine. And so she suffered a lot of pain inside the new hive, and after several transformations she grew, becoming what she is now, and her appearance began to change. And that's how she became the poisonous queen bee they saw, and he congratulates her for becoming the queen, because despite the moment being a little strange, He gives her some flowers offering it as a gift and she blushes. I'll just ignore it. I'll act natural, I'll accept it. It's natural, I'm already used to it. It doesn't even hurt anymore, and she runs up to him, hugging the protagonist, and he asks about it and she keeps clinging. And all the other bees see that he is good and stick to her, doing like their mother. And everyone is happy along with the other rabbits, and he says he likes her too. And so a few days later, he is woken up by the rabbits, wondering what happened. So he says he thought he would be able to sleep during that blue moon, but something happened. Because the carrot sprouted, and the carrot with power and the blue moon appeared there. And the father rabbit calls him, and he notices that there is a carrot like that there, because he thought it wouldn't change since it is small. But he thinks it will be great if he can pick it, and he is happy with the rabbits because they woke up just for that. So when he pulls, he gets his first carrot, and says it's the size of a thermos cup, and notes that it's an agility carrot. The system says that carrot was already nutritious and delicious, but it got even better with the energy of the blue moon. When consumed, it permanently increases your agility by 0.05 points, and so your experience grows, and the rabbit's proficiency increases considerably. The rabbit gets 70 experience points. He notices that it's a ranking crop, which means that when he harvests better crops like this, he'll earn even more points, being 70 instead of 50. He notices that this isn't his, saying that the rabbits can take it, thanking them for the gold work, asking them to continue helping him in the future. All the bunnies are happy with that carrot, so the scythe rabbit asks his father to throw it up because he's going to make a good one. So he chops it into several pieces so that each of his family members can have theirs, and each one has their slice. He says it was a good job because he managed to cut it to size. Perfect, saying it was a great performance. And then they prepare to eat and are happy with the taste of it, and the protagonist in turn pulls out the blue moon tomato, noticing that there were 5 this time, 5 special ones, and he asks the ADM to get them because he had asked earlier, and says that if he is grateful, he should give him another ability, but the ADM said he will think about it and maybe give one later. But he asks how he will think, but then he hears a scream, and it is Tell himself who is there, and he is surprised that the cat has already returned, and the protagonist questions about it, but the cat tells Sejun to ask the poisonous bees not to attack him, and he realizes that Tell was not really there when they were born, realizing that the bees think that Tell is their enemy and asks them to look, saying that Tell is not an enemy, and he is part of the family, and he starts to grab the cat to show that he is good, but his foot gets stuck to the protagonist, and he starts to sneeze, and he asks what happened, because the cat is calling him brother out of nowhere, saying that he is just an employee, questioning how he dare address him, as if they were on the same level, bullying the cat just to disturb, and Tell says that he just called him family, saying that it hurts apologizing, but that the protagonist makes a point of calling him employee Tell, wanting to calculate the sales first, telling him to get the money from the tomato and Churindia's sales, and he gives it to the boy, and he realizes that it is 75 coins, saying that Tell worked hard, and besides that he also shows something, saying that the humans were waiting to be able to buy the tomatoes, so he charged 0 to coins more per unit, and he says that the boy must be very surprised because he did well, saying that now he can become the sales cat, and so the protagonist offers his encouragement for him because he tried hard, still calling Tell an employee, but he asks if he can't give him another title because he did well, asking why he didn't become the sales cat, but the protagonist says that there is still a long way to go for that, calling him employee Tell, saying that he needs to try harder, and he says that he didn't know it would be so difficult to become a sales cat, but the protagonist says that in fact he already knew that, saying that the tower's ADM it's very useful because he warned that the cat increased the price of the unit, and he says he'll give him another harvest of the blue moon from the information. Then he ends up noticing something strange because Tell is eating churu right next to him, and he sees the cat all happy, asks what it is, and he says it's churu, and the protagonist asks where he got it, and he says he got it from a human after taking a picture with her, and this one tastes like chicken, but the salmon one is tastier, and the protagonist is surprised that a human gave it to him because there are only 2 ways for things from the outside to enter the tower. The first is by being sucked in, and that's how he entered the tower. At the same time he disappeared, and the things that were with him also came to the tower, and originally the sucked people appear on the first floor, and there they exchange the items to be able to climb the tower. And the second way is when an awakened hunter brings something to the tower, and they say they can only bring about 1 kilo of items, but when they leave the tower, they can take anything, and normally, the items that hunters bring are simple things. The hunter's cell phone, which is called the hunter phone, and also the hunter's food and general supplies were the tower's exclusive cigarettes for smokers and are instant foods that can be consumed while climbing the tower. He notices that a hunter brings unnecessary things just to find a cat. It's too much, but he ends up having an idea when he thinks about it, thinking he's a genius, and will say that a new business idea just crossed his mind, and he starts looking at Theo with a very greedy look, and the cat feels this, wondering if he by any chance wants to try crying. Maybe the protagonist is a bit of a scoundrel. I'm starting to realize this as the chapters go by. And with Sejun looking at Theo, he even offers that shroom, but the boy takes it from him, simply confiscating it, and Theo then freaks out, asking him to give it back. But Prota tells him to stop doing that, because he's going to tear his clothes. However, Theo says he got it, and then takes a picture with the human, but Sejun says he's right, and made a deal and took the picture, but remembers special condition 3, because without permission from Party A, Party B cannot have additional customers, and says that this is a serious breach of contract, and the cat didn't know this and gets scared. And Prota then tells Theo to sell, not to be disappointed, but asks why they don't talk about their customers, and at that Theo asks if he's back to being the salesman, and the boy says he'll leave him in that position for an hour, and if he makes good deals in the future, he can become a salesman for many hours. And Theo starts to understand, getting all silly, and at that, Prota gets to the point asking him to sit there, picking Theo up, putting him on his lap, and asking if the fire's temperature is good, and this while the bunnies help him by fanning the cat. Then he says that Theo can lie down comfortably and eat that sure, and with that, Theo becomes increasingly happy with the perks he's having. He complains about being a vendor, he has these privileges, and thinks it's the best feeling in the world. So Sejun asks if he likes chur, and Theo says so too. He wants to eat grilled fish. Prota goes to prepare his fish immediately, saying he'll serve it, but still questions how he'll get to the 38th floor without fighting the other monsters. So Theo says it's because of his traveling merchant license, and Prota is curious about that. Theo says it's this brooch that's proof he's a traveling merchant. He says he has to pay an annual membership fee, quite expensive to the Merchant Association, to maintain this license. The higher the level, the more money he has to pay per year, but he also gets a lot of benefits. He says that if you have the merchant license, you can use the various facilities protected by the association and not be attacked by monsters. It's one of the advantages of being a merchant, traveling merchant, so he asks if he can bring hunters to this floor. But Theo says he can't do that, because although the monsters don't attack the traveling merchants, they will continue to attack the hunters. Furthermore, there is a shortcut called the Merchant's Passage, which is only available to traveling merchants. If he wants to go to other floors using this shortcut, he must have a traveling merchant's license first. Otherwise, without the Merchant's Passage, it's impossible to go from there to the 38th floor in just 5 days. At this, Prota asks if he's serious, wondering what floor they are on. Theo reveals that they are on the 99th floor, and Prota almost doesn't believe it. Starting to find out. Then Theo confirms that they are on the 99th floor, asking if Sejun didn't know about it. And Prota really freaks out with this information completely and falls to the ground desolate. And in that, Theo asks what happened to him, and Prota says that since Theo can't use the waypoints as a hunter, but because the trip only lasts 10 days. He thought this place was just a few places on the 38th floor, but he thinks he should forget about it because it doesn't change anything. And now he knows what floor he is on now. But then Theo keeps calling him desperately, gains Sejun's attention, bringing him back, asking him to wake up. And with that, Theo finally manages to bring him back and says that his week's pay will be reduced to ashes because he is letting the fish burn. And Prota goes there to take the fish out of the fire, putting others to get it right this time. And he thinks that it has only been a few weeks since the hunters started climbing the 40th floor. And since he is on the 99th floor, he wonders if he should just give up on leaving the tower, but then Theo starts giving him orders, telling him to do it properly grilled, telling him not to let it burn like the last one, saying that this is an order from the seller. But then Sejun gets pissed at the audacity of that guy, saying that Theo is already finished in an hour, and he is surprised by this, saying he's embarrassed. But Prota thinks of something seeing that pendant on his chest, and in that he imagines the hunters looking for his goods. But he goes there, answering if they need help, asking if they want to look at some good items, arriving there with Theo, and then they are happy that he is the legendary traveling merchant, farmer of the Sejun Park Tower, and his mask at the orange cat Theo. He says he thinks this story has already spread everywhere, and everyone starts to be happy that it's true that he appears in front of the hopeless hunters, wanting to give him the money, and he keeps dreaming about that. He asks Theo if it's possible for him to become a traveling merchant, but Theo asks if he isn't someone from outside the tower, and he says that only creatures born inside the tower can become a traveling merchant, questioning if Prota didn't know that, and he becomes desperate once again. Then Theo says that no matter how cool it seems, he will have to give up, and Prota simply freaks out, throwing a tantrum, screaming, scaring everyone around, cursing that damn tower, and all the rabbits get scared. The bees can't understand what's going on, and the ADM himself also hears something from his house. So everyone is scared to death, and Theo says he was scared for a moment, asking why he's screaming, nothing, and he's all ruffled up already on top of the black rabbit, and Prota thinks it won't be much different, and says he should have prepared himself for suffering the moment he decided to enter the tower, and he'll just waste time stressing about it, wondering what he can do, because if he can't leave the tower, he'll live every moment to the fullest right there. And outside the tower, some people talk about Prota's tomatoes, and the executive Aloro asks if the mysterious item that recently became popular among players is that. And that woman says that's right, and she says it came from her brother, one of the members of the Phoenix Guild. And he says he met one by chance street vendor and ended up buying it. So the guy asks if that's it, but the girl says she can't see it, but he can. The item's in the status window, and that's Jenny, CEO of Easter Pharmaceuticals. So he's surprised by that cherry tomato, and that's Michael McLaren, Vice President from the Gaggle Food Company. And Michael asks what is she going to do with this junk item. Jenny tells him that he's the only one who controls 39% of the global food market. She asks if he's lost his business talent. Michael says that even though she's the CEO of the Easter Food Company, she must be wondering what happens if she opens her mouth carelessly. But she's just showing him some analysis. He's surprised by what he sees. She says that, as expected, they failed to extract the compound from the item they took from the tower. But the results of the data they obtained in a short period of time, researching, were beyond his imagination. Michael then asks her why she showed him this. Jenny asks if this isn't a business she wants to monopolize on her own. She tells Michael that she just needs her agricultural tower project to be properly licensed. He's surprised by this, questioning how she knew about it. She starts laughing, asking if he doesn't think he should regain the trust of her father, the current president of the company, Gaggle, and says that she heard that the board director will elect the next president on behalf of the current president who is sick, and she offers him those tomatoes, asking what he thinks, questioning if that cherry tomato over there doesn't look quite appetizing. And he takes one and throws it inside and thinks it's sweet, liking it and laughing a lot with her, but he laughs so much and likes it so much that he asks if she has another one. But she reminds him that he even ate hers, telling him to go to the tower and buy his own. And in this, Protagonist begins to use his head to get to know the surroundings and also deal with daily needs. And since they're going to settle there, they have to correct the inconveniences they've experienced so far. They also have to increase the items they need for their daily activities and have to know the surroundings for their own safety. He asks Theo if there are any monsters near the cave, and he says there aren't any nearby, but there are some a little further away. The protagonist asks what kind of monsters they are. He then says it's a giant crimson bear, reminding the protagonist of the monster from that time. He's surprised, and the cat tells him it's a terrible monster, and every time he passes by, it always stares at him. And the protagonist realizes that, as expected, it's still dangerous to leave the cave, and thousands of cherry tomatoes will soon bloom. And if he has a lot of flowers, the number of poisonous bees will also increase. In this case, he can use the poisonous bees to patrol near the cave, ensuring no monsters get close. He can also ask the poisonous bees to tie the rope he made using onion leaves to nearby trees. And so, he finally makes it out of the cave. He tells Theo he has a mission for him, and Theo asks what it is. He says it's an extremely important mission that only a salesman can complete. He asks the salesman Theo if he can do it, and Theo happily confirms it to the protagonist. And so, a few days later, on the 38th floor, Theo approaches the human camp and says that, compared to the last time, there are many more people there, and it's as if they're securing their place there. He thinks it doesn't matter, because this time, the more customers, the better. And he jumps down there, scaring everyone. And he says he's there, and everyone runs. And they notice it's the traveling merchant cap. And a chubby guy comes up asking if they have the miraculous tomatoes and mermaids, saying he's going to buy them all. But then one of them asks how he can skip the line, saying it's his first time there, and everyone who arrived first has already made preparations to buy. And the chubby one asks, what the hell is this? Questioning if the Phoenix Guild thinks they can monopolize the 38th floor, questioning how dare he act so pretentious. But then, the kitten asks the humans to wait a minute, asking them to listen to him, and says that, in fact, from that moment on, he's going to change his sales method. Then, they are surprised and question what the cat means. He says that, from now on, he will sell 500 cherry tomatoes to the highest bidder. And they question what he said. He says that's why. Those who are broke can leave now. The corrupt capitalist cat is excluding the poor. So he says there are 500 cherry tomatoes, starting with 35 coins from the tower. And the protagonist, in turn, realized that the popularity of Tomato Sand, the cherry outside the tower, is bigger than he thought. And judging by the fact that they gave Tell a Cry to win his favor, he bets there's some psychological competition to secure the items. And since the supply is limited and the number of people needing it will certainly increase, the best way to make more money is through an auction. He asks the Black Rabbit if he doesn't think so, and he says that, besides that, he also gave Tell some important missions. He'll use this opportunity to validate Tell's negotiation skills. He calls everyone back to work, asking the Black Rabbit if he can start making dinner preparation. He of course agrees, but the protagonist receives an additional mission, ordering the tower manager to drink a cup of magical cherry tomatoes mixed with honey. The reward is a job-related skill. Failure is a major disappointment. He says that experimenting with tomatoes and cherries will take a long time. He has to work now, saying he'll do it for him later. But the ADM demands that he complete the mission now. He says he'll complete the mission faster because he's prepared an incredible job skill for him. He emphasizes emphasizes that the skill given as a reward for the mission is quite impressive. Then, the protagonist realizes he wants to show off the mission's reward, or he just wants to drink the tomato juice, asking if he can just give it to him. But the manager tells him he must complete the mission to receive the reward, and he's yelling at the protagonist to trust him. Just trust your father. That's what he's saying, literally. And the protagonist looks a little skeptical and asks the manager to wait a bit. And he thinks that because he suddenly had a craving for tomato juice, he squeezed 50 cherry tomatoes he picked, mixed them with some honey, and shared them with the rabbits. And since the taste was so delicious, they whined for a while, and he thinks that the amount he collects should be enough. So, he says it's time for the pulp to squeeze him dry. He turns to the queen bee and says he needs her help. She goes over, squeezes some honey up, forming a bubble, and takes it to the boy's cup. And so, the cherry tomato juice is ready. It's a juice made by squeezing cherry tomatoes, extracting their thick pulp. And the honey from the venomous bee makes the flavor sweeter and richer. And the occasionally chewed pieces of tomato and cherry provide a thrilling sensation. And the protagonist tells DNA to get it. He's genuinely curious about the taste and is flapping his wings. And the protagonist reads about wings, wondering what kind of animal that is. Meanwhile, the little dragon is drinking it and thinks it's very sweet and sour. He's all happy. So, he compliments him because the juice was so delicious. And the protagonist is happy that DNA liked it. And he gets straight to the point, wanting to see the reward skill. And the reward is a special job skill he acquired, which is beekeeping. He must register the venomous beehive as his own to use the skill. And the special skill allows the user to apply beekeeping skills to their hive. And the bees in the user's hive show no activity among themselves. And the user can give specific instructions for the bees in your hive, and the reach-off collection of bees from your hive will be slightly increased. In addition, the queen bee spawning speed will be slightly increased. The bee's honey collection speed will also be increased, and the pollination rate will also be increased. And his hives are currently one of a kind, and that's the poisonous beehive. He says he was worried that the poisonous bees might follow him when he left the cave, but by giving him this ability, things will get really good. And he asks if DNA heard his concerns, and DNA doesn't know what he was doing. While the protagonist thanks him, the little dragon gets all silly and says that if he's grateful, he could give her another glass of magic tomato juice with honey. But in this, the protagonist speaks directly to him, saying that there's something he's curious about. He wonders if, by any chance, he's a winged pig. And with this deduction from the protagonist, the dragon's mood goes downhill, and he changes completely, cursing the protagonist, telling him to go to hell, calling him cruel, stupid, and foolish. He wonders why DNA is so angry. Meanwhile, with Tell, everyone is surprised he wants to hold an auction. Meanwhile, the guild leader is desperate. If he doesn't buy the cherry tomatoes that day, his image as a caring father will be ruined. He offers him 41 coins from the tower, and everyone is surprised that he's doing this. And he says that, for now, the most important thing is to secure the cherry tomatoes. And then, they can raise money from people who need the tomatoes. And with that, Gordon Ho offers 45, while they increase until they reach 52. And with that, the leader asks if she has any money, and she says she didn't bring much because she was just going to buy some as a gift. But just then, another guy in a suit comes by offering 100 tower coins, and he says he'll buy all 500 units for 100 coins. So, Gordon Ho simply closes the sale for him and says it was sold for 100 coins. Then, everyone is surprised because that person is Michael, vice president of Gaggle. He's called the young master of the hunters, wondering why that guy is there. And behind him is someone the leader knows. And he goes to Chris, asking what he's doing there, because he's out of this expedition mission. And the boy is surprised talking to Don Schick, and he says that, in fact, his sister asked him to call Michael to where the street vendor was, and he apologizes. And Don Schick remembers that Chris's sister is the CEO of the pharmaceutical company, and he thinks they now have to compete with big companies. And he didn't know the rumor would spread so quickly, and there are only 2 more rounds in the auction, and he should win this time. And so, the kitten starts the next round. And with that, Theo starts again with 35 coins from the tower, while the leader thinks he needs to win by offering 60. That conglomerate, once again, offers 100 tower coins. So, the leader continues to borrow from everyone, but while he's desperate, Theo once again sells the tomatoes to the same conglomerate. So he starts again, but the blonde man tells the merchant to stop, because he will take all 1,500 for 300 coins. And so, the guild leader falls to the ground completely desolate, because the highest status has been lost. So, he tells the team leader to stop, because he can wait for the next opportunity. And then, Theo collects the money as the vice president's subordinate. He says everything has been loaded, asking what they should do. He says the product is fantastic, and it's a good thing he came there right away. He says they're going to the first floor of the tower. And then, that girl who took the picture with Theo comes back to talk to him again. He notices that she is human, that she made him cry, trying to remember her name. And the girl is happy that he remembers what happened. and he doesn't remember the girl's name at all, and he ends up saying the girl's name wrong, and she just accepts it, asking if they can take a picture together again, saying it's going to make him cry. He's all happy, but he tries to play hard to get, saying that there's no need to cry, and she's surprised by that, and she says that in return, he must give her that thing called coffee, and it sounds like crying, and she asks if he's talking about that coffee blend, and he says yes. He asks if she has anything like salt and pepper, and they get more and more surprised, and it turns out that the girl gives him all the items he's asking for, and Theo remembers when Protagonist spoke to him, saying that if people ask him to take a picture with him, ask for things like coffee, salt, or pepper, and depending on his performance, he'll let you be a salesperson for many hours, and he's all happy, saying he knows he'll be able to spend a good amount of time in Sejun Park's lab, and the girl is all happy to take a picture with the kitten, several photos, doing various poses, and she says she has some really good photos, thanking him. He says he's also grateful for the deal, and then she mentions the cat's paw, taking his paw, thinking that it's so soft, and that feeling is so good, and he asks what she's doing, and she says she couldn't help it, because it looks so good, and she says it's going to make her cry, and he asks her why, and she simply thanks him for letting him touch her paws, saying that it was quite relaxing thanks to him, and he's surprised. He asks if humans feel good just by touching his paw, and she says yes, because humans don't have such soft, pretty paws, and truth be told, they're lucky just to touch her, and she thinks to herself, that's because cats don't originally like holding human hands, and he asks her if that's why, and she says yes, and Theo begins to notice that his little paws are lucky paws, and her friend is also in the game, wondering if she could take a picture, saying she'll give her pepper first, and he tells her that of course. He takes a picture with the girl too, and as he does so, she looks at his paw, and he throws them forward, telling her to touch them, and he tells her to give him her rewards. So the girl thinks he's so cute, tells him he should bring the crying next time too, and he gets all silly about everything he got from the girls, and he says that by just letting them touch his paws, he can become a salesman for 24 hours. Then he also remembers that he has another mission. Meanwhile, the girl continues posting photos with the cute kitten, and then he comes up behind her, watching what she's doing, wondering about this. And she gets a fright, questioning where he came from, and he talks to the girl, who was Suha, but he's calling her Boha. He asks if she's from a place called the Republic of South Korea, and she asks how he knew, and he says he found out because he smelled the familiar scent coming from her, and she asks about that scent, and he asks if she can help him, and the girl finds this very strange. Meanwhile, the protagonist is there, peacefully in his plantation, with his bees and his rabbits, and they're producing crazy honey for the protagonist, and he keeps making cherry tomato juice with honey, and his beekeeping increases meticulously, and he acquires more and more of this juice, and with his level 1 beekeeping, it is completed by leveling up, and the protagonist thinks this is going very well, and as the bee population continues to grow, his beekeeping skill has also leveled up, and he looks at the beehive, noticing that she's laying eggs, and he says it's hard to see her these days, and the option has changed from increasing minutely to increasing a little, and he wonders what the difference is, because that's a lot, Naval, and it's said that the number of hives he could have has increased from 1 to 1, from 1 to 2, and if he can divide the hives later, he'll be able to have 2 hives, and he says he'll need another container to collect the honey later. It would be nice to have a bottle, but he can think about that calmly later. But for now, he's harvesting carrots, calling the rabbits, inviting them to come and eat. And as he harvests those carrots, his work experience continues to increase. By raising his harvesting proficiency to level 2, he gains 10 XP. He also mentions that yesterday, a few days after harvesting the moonlight carrot, he was able to harvest regular carrots as well. And all the rabbits are very happy about this. So he tells each of them to get one for themselves. And he says that the type of food that can be enjoyed in the cave increases. And he sees the rabbits bowing and wonders if this is something to make them bow. And they all gather around the fire to enjoy this. And he thinks about the nimble carrot. When consumed, it causes a person to lose 10 grams of body fat. It also increases agility by 0.1 grams per 10 minutes. The effects accumulate to 10 grams per hour. And when consumed, you lose 10 grams of body fat and improve your vision. He's amazed at the effects. And he thinks that once harvested, the number will increase. And if they can be sold, they'll become really famous. Besides, he thinks it's delicious. And he says he'll eat it quickly and then harvest the carrots and store them in storage. And so, several of them are placed with the tomatoes and taken to your stock. And they go back to planting some while harvesting others. And he asks if the black rabbit is tired yet and tells him not to be smart, to try to steal and eat the carrot. And the father sees what his son is doing, and he notices that the storage is almost full, and he wonders if they should stop and fix things there. But as he does so, he starts receiving more XP notifications, and he wonders when he managed to reach level 10. And then another mission appears. He asks the ADM if this is his doing, but he says he didn't do it. It's a job quest that appears at level 10. You have to complete it to get new class attributes and advance to the next level. and the protagonist says he's heard about the job quest, and he says that normal hunters receive combat-related quests would be to defeat 100 giant orcs, or defeat 500 slimes, because normally the missions are about subduing monsters. And since he's a farmer, the mission type is different. He must expand 50 square meters, and he thinks that's very easy there, and he completes the mission. And as a reward for completing the mission, he goes up to level 11 and receives a bonus stat. And as a reward for completing the mission, he also acquires 10 coins from the tower. And as a reward again, he gets a job, and he finally finishes the expansion, almost dead from exhaustion, along with the other rabbits. And he notices that the work attribute he's earned as a reward is really good, because he can gain XP every time he creates a square meter of crop field. This is a job attribute, and he says it's good that he completed the mission quickly. Well, after eating and planting carrots, the field grew more than he had imagined, and he ends up exhausted, thinking he can't do this anymore. And he calls everyone so he can sleep and finish tomorrow, saying they all did a good job. And the bunnies try to get into the house, along with their parents, but the two of them block them, leaving them outside, and they lock themselves in there alone. Then the bunnies keep knocking on the door, wanting to come in with their parents, and the protagonist wonders what's going on, asking if they were kicked out of their house. Noting that they're back, they'll become adult white and black rabbits, and he says it's time for them to become dependent. It's too late for them to tour today. He asks if they should sleep together, so they all go to bed with the protagonist, sleeping on his body, and he says that this is good sometimes. Well, it's very warm. Meanwhile, the guild leader thinks his daughter is going to torment him, and then that crying girl comes over there, talking to Dongseok, calling him. Then he asks why the street vendor is there, and she says that Theo has something to say, and he asks if he happens to be the leader of the people who came from Korea, and he says yes, questioning the cat. Why is he asking this? And Theo, out of the blue, he proposes a contract with the guild leader Dongseok. The guild leader finds it strange that the cat is talking. Theo shows him the contact information, and he talks about giving 50 million to Park Sejong's family, who lives in the Sosa district. And Theo also says he has to tell them that Sejong is doing well, and they'll pay him 50 tower coins and 200 magic cherry tomatoes. So he's surprised by this, because with this, he can be the best father to his daughter. But then the leader asks who Park Sejong is, and since the announcement is for the family, he must be a hunter who can't leave the tower right now. So Theo talks about it, but he remembers how much Sejong asked him for this, saying that the secret to the others is that he's on the 99th floor. And Theo thinks of something, and he says that Sejong saved his life on the 40th floor, and he's just running errands for them. So he's surprised that the cat mentioned the 40th floor, saying that means it is a hunter who has already completed this floor, and he was the one who found that magical cherry tomato. And Theo says he can't tell him that. He says Sejong is a good man, so he has a lot of secrets, and the leader thinks about this a lot. Even if his guild assembled a team made up of the best members, it would be difficult to get past the 39th floor, and he'd never heard of any official records for a player who made it that far. And say you're a solo hunter and haven't joined any guilds. This is a great opportunity. Well, with that excuse, if he keeps in touch with the boy, they might even recruit him for their guild, and they can monopolize the distribution of those hard-to-find cherry tomatoes. So he says he's going to make a contract, and Theo tells him to just sign this paper. And when he does, he does. He says it's done, and the system confirms it. And the leader says that since Theo already knows, the agreement is valid even outside the tower, but he'll see you in 10 days to update you and ensure the information is delivered. And he orders Sejong to be transformed for him, and he says that he is Kingdom Sheik of the Phoenix Guild. He'll be responsible for delivering the news to his parents. Meanwhile, the protagonist says the rabbits are busy. They're building their houses now, and they're really committed. And he asks if they're finished building yet, and several of them are already finished. And when he looks, they all have their own little houses, quite proud, and he notices they have a roof made of onion leaves and mud walls, and the father's rabbit and the scythe rabbit, they had a lot of work. And in that, he says that the other, he made a room to rest in 3 hours of work, saying he wanted to have something like that too. And he says that they all did very well, and he says that it was a few days ago since the rabbits moved out from the rabbit couple's house. So he calls everyone over to throw a housewarming party, and the protagonist explains that the baby rabbits, they started building their houses, and the rabbit couple, they're still clinging to each other, same as before. And so he toasts to the rabbits, who work together with everyone, and talk to the black rabbit, take a punch, thanking him for offering excellent quality fish. He's all happy, and the protagonist says they're very smart, and it was a great idea, making a cup digging a hole in the carrot. They really liked it because they just took it and ate it too, like an ice cream cone. And he says that even though it's too small for him, it's still fun since he can eat the glass after drinking. But in that, he notices both the rabbit Dolores and his wife all loving, and she's pinching him, and the protagonist notices it and notice that this looks suspicious, very suspicious, wondering why did they make their children leave. And he's starting to think that they'll have more little brothers soon, and the black rabbit is unsure about this. And the protagonist receives a modification saying that the seed shop is open, and he remembers that was the deadline. He completely forgot about it. He wants to see what he can buy. And when you open it, it has 100 potato seeds for 5 tower coins, 1,000 lettuce seeds for 0.1 coins, and 100 strawberry seeds for 0.5 coins. And he notices that he finally has lettuce, because he really wanted some blood and upsole. But since he doesn't have any meat to wrap inside the lettuce, he thinks he'll have to pass it by. And then he notices what's left. It was the potato and the strawberry. He has a lot of money, but he can only choose one of them. And it's really hard to choose, but he thinks carbohydrates are the best, choosing potato seeds. And he buys it, and 5 tower coins are discounted, and he earns 50 loyalty points. And now he has a total of 56 points. And he can go up to level 1 in the store in 30 days. And he thanks him for using that store. Then a bag is thrown into the protagonist's lap, a very large bag. He almost gets crushed, and he says it scared him a lot, with several potatoes falling around. And the Laurel Rabbit is very upset about this. His wife was almost hit, and he apologizes to him. And the protagonist opens it, noticing that it looks delicious, saying he wants to plant it right now. And he says he'll cook, boil, and even make potato pancakes. And he's already excited to cook, asking if the rabbits don't feel the same way, and saying that's right, saying that they're taking a day off today, and tomorrow they're going to plant the potatoes. And everyone agrees with that. But while he's excited, and if he remembers anything, wondering if Tel is doing okay, because he must have just finished his chores. And now in the Central Merchant District, several different species are there, and there are furries of all kinds. And Tel goes looking for blankets, packed pillows, ladle, bowls, and spoons. And he says this should be good enough for a frying pan. Then he asks the wolf, how much is all that? And it says it's 1.6 tower coins. But Tel is walking around with Protagonist, who even asks for a discount. And at that, the wolf laughs at him, saying he's too direct, saying he's never seen you around here before, and he'll be generous enough to sell you for just 1.5 tower coins. So he asks for even more discount. But the wolf then says he won't have any left, and he can't give him any more discount. And the cat asks if it's serious, and says he'll buy it somewhere else, leaving everything behind. But at this, the wolf despairs and asks him to wait, saying that he can't just leave like that. But then Tel says that he said he won't give him a discount. So he leaves, and the wolf gives up, saying he lost, saying he'll do it for 1.3 coins from the tower. Then the cat says he'll only pay 1.2, or just leave, and he says it's okay, saying it's going to be like this and nothing more. And so the cat gives him the coin, and he leaves all happy. And at that, the wolf tells himself that he thought he was a newbie, but in fact, he met a master. But when he looks at the coins the cat left up there, he sees some strange sweat marks there. Meanwhile, Tel is sweating profusely, all nervous, thinking he finally did it, and he bought something without looking like an idiot, shouting around. And he remembers the protagonist teaching him something, telling Tel it's time for Sejun class, about how not to be a stupid buyer. And he says that first, when they suggest a price, he should ask for a discount. It doesn't matter what it is. And second, if they say no, he should just leave. And third, if they stop for him, he must ask for a discount 3 times, and ask the cat if he understood, telling him to just remember those 3 and not get robbed. And he realizes that what the protagonist said was true. And it really worked, just like he told you, and says that now he is a traveling merchant who knows how to get a discount. But then he hears someone talking about an item outside the tower, realizing it was scamming someone else. And he says he'll tell him a secret, because he just wants to help the newbie merchant to become a high-level merchant. And so, Tel gets very angry. What a nasty move, be passing someone else over. Farmer 7 seeing that scene, thinks he can't forgive him for deceiving other novice merchants, so he shouts strangely, saying that he finally found him. And the goblin is surprised to see Tel, and talks to him as if they were friends, asking where he's been all this time, asking if he knows how long he waited, asking if the items he gave were good. But at that, Tel tells him to get lost, asking how he dares act around it, and tells that other person not to believe that bastard because he's a fraud. Then he questions what Tel is talking about, asking how he can be saying such things, saying that he gave good items at an affordable price, all because he sympathized with his situation. But he is holding a knife to the neck of the one who saved him from drowning. But Tel tells him not to joke with him, talking about that cup, saying that he must have sold it with magical preservation, and tells him not to believe him because that cup cuts off contact with the outside and blocks the circulation of heat. causing the temperature to drop slowly. But that's not magic. All those items, the things he gave, are garbage. And this guy is surprised that he knows this, and asks where he heard this information, and he says that this is just a misunderstanding, and says that Tell is right, he must have made a mistake about the item, and calls him to talk a little. But Tell calls the guards, saying that he is there, and there is a wicked goblin who is trying to trick the beginner merchant, and in that the goblin asks Tell to just wait, because he will not let him get away with this. So he runs off, and in that Tell gets angry with him, and tells him not to believe what he says recklessly, and that newbie thanks Tell, saying that he survived thanks to him, and if he can ask his name, what would it be? Then he introduces himself all cute, and she is surprised that he is the Tell she heard about, and thanks him for helping her. But he says that everything is fine, saying that he is going, telling her not to be robbed anymore. But apparently, that little fox knew something, and she says that the mission is complete, and tells everyone to get away reveal. And with that, the ninjas come out from above, and 3 dogs gather near her, and she questions what is happening there, asking if she didn't tell them to get rid of all possible elements that could hinder the mission. And then they apologize to her, saying that it is the agents who are dominating the 100 meters round as planned. However, they do not know how that merchant cat appeared, and says that there is no excuse, apologizing to Agent Zeref, and she is the agent of the Boreal Secret Inspection of the Traveling Merchants Association, and she asks if he is calling that an excuse, saying that the operation to arrest this guy, which they have been preparing for the last few months, is about to go wrong, and they will return to the Boreal Inspection headquarters for now. But first she talks about 100 letters of apology. And that dog asks what she's talking about, and says that it is to reflect on her mistake today, telling him to bring 100 letters of apology, and everyone trembles as she leaves. And she thinks that lately they have been receiving a number of reports about the fraudulent merchant from the Traveling Merchants Association, and after a long time, they were able to track Scarin's movements, and he knows where and how to get items that can only be found outside the tower, and they were not able to find out if he gets the items through an illegal route, and it was impossible to catch Scarin in a hurry, and yet she somehow managed to make contact with Scarin while disguised as a traveling merchant. But faced with an immediate arrest, they were interrupted, and she thinks that they have to revise the plan, and remembers that his name was Tell, and he seemed like he was not on good terms with Scarin, and she says that she will have to investigate that guy, and at that, Tell starts to feel good as he goes home. Meanwhile, the protagonist is talking to the Scythe Rabbit, saying that this is how he should cut an X, and he really learns easily, doing a great job, and he'll say that. After that, just moisten the soil a little and put the cut piece in the ground, and he asks if Big Rabbit isn't surprised, because with his trick, he'll be able to plant for 100 potatoes with only 100 seeds. Then he says that he saw this in the past on YouTube, and to think that he saw something without even paying attention while eating, and this is helping him now. He earned 1 XP for 1 AP, and says that it's not much, but it seems like extra income. And he says that now that he's finished with the potatoes, he wonders if he should dig up some sweet potatoes. And everyone gets excited, and he says that he hasn't been able to eat since his days as baby rabbits, so it's been a while. But he asks the bunnies if they know what to do, and he says he's talking about the sweet potato sprouts, and since he has to remove the sweet potato vines before digging them up, they can just throw away the sweet potato sprouts, which will give sweet potatoes after they planted them, and that is something they cannot do. And by saying this, all the little rabbits get very sad, but the black rabbit makes them calm down and reminds them of everything that happened that time, and they apparently have a somewhat evil plan. And he asks if they think that planting the sweet potato sprouts is part of their work anyway, so he says no, saying that he decided not to monopolize the fun of planting the sweet potato sprouts, and says that farming is all about time, and he cannot ruin the crop just because of his proficiency and skill. And they all get sad because they will have work. And then both the mother and the sickle go cutting the sprouts, and the fat one goes carrying them with his cart. And the warrior goes after dying for taking little trying to keep up, and so they sow everything. And after the work is completed, the protagonist stands up proudly, creating 500 square meters of sweet potato land. And he is surprised that even without cultivating alone, he was able to obtain despair by creating the land. He earns a lot from this, getting 150 and a bonus status. And so Onluffy's father rabbit, along with the rabbit and the mother, start the dance, and they all start dancing while singing. And the protagonist doesn't understand anything about what's going on and wonders what they're doing. The system says that the white rabbits are waiting for the full harvest of sweet potatoes, and says that it's a lively dance of the dedicated abundance of the tower farmers. The tower manager is also shouting, roasted sweet potatoes, along with the white rabbits, and he wonders if he should catch them with the help of their support. When he pulls the first one, something starts to shine coming from the ground, and when he puts his eye in, the brightness increases so much that it's almost blinding, and he ends up noticing that it's a sun pumpkin sweet potato, a mutant pumpkin sweet potato that absorbs the sunlight at the highest point of the tower, and has the energy of the sun, and when consumed, it burns 100 grams of fat and grants resistance to cold for 24 hours. It is said that he received an achievement for reproducing a new species in the tower, and the protagonist is very surprised by what he achieved, especially with the news of having managed to reproduce a new species. But meanwhile, in the real world, on a certain residential street, the leader of the Phoenix team stops there and realizes that this is the place where he should go, Sejun's house. And upon seeing that new variety, both the protagonist and the rabbits are amazed. And the system says that he harvested that, and the CSP increased a lot, with him receiving many rewards for it. And the tower grants him exclusive rights to cultivate new varieties. And no one can cultivate the sweet potato from the sun pumpkin without his permission, and he thinks this is incredible, because it is like saying that he is the only one who can have that sweet potato, and even if he harvests it and sells it to someone else, no one can plant it, because he has the cultivation rights, and that is the best. He puts it back down, saying he's curious about the taste, but since it's a new variety, he has to make sure he plants it and lets it grow well. He then says they should dig up some sweet potatoes again and go after others. He manages to get several and starts gathering them along with the rabbits. As time goes by, he puts the fish to roast for everyone to eat along with the sweet potatoes. When he takes it off the heat and cuts one open, they're amazed and says there's something he died for, and the rabbits fall in with him. But he asks everyone to eat slowly because the father rabbit is almost getting stuck. The system reminds him that the ADM is waiting his turn while wiping his saliva. The protagonist thanks him for letting the rabbits eat first, asking him to get 10 sweet potatoes. He says he's grateful and will enjoy it. Then it's his turn, and he asks to the rabbit with the scythe if he has finished eating, then if he can give him a hand. Meanwhile, the little dragon is all happy eating the sweet potato too and throwing it inside, and he says that it is a shame that he ate them all and wonders if he should ask for more sweet potatoes. But in that, he sees the protagonist doing something different, making several little fillets with the help of the rabbit with the scythe, and he says that after drying them like that, they have to turn into sand 1 or 2 more times. And he asks the scythe rabbit for 1 more potato, and he throws it up, chopping it beautifully for the protagonist, and he says that's cool because it cuts them very evenly, and asks him to keep doing it that way, and the bunny gets all excited, and in that, the ADM is wondering if he's throwing away the delicious potatoes, but he says that he's not throwing them away, but rather drying them, and he's doing a very good thing, asking if he's ever heard of dehydrated sweet potatoes. But while the protagonist is taking the cooking up to the tower, Gilcheek goes to his family's house, and someone inside asks who it is, and someone there asks if this is the house in Sejun Park. And then the people inside quickly open it, asking about him, but question who that man is. And in that, they welcome him into the house, because they knew, and says that they haven't had him invited these days. So, he doesn't know if this will suit his taste, but he says that it's okay, saying that he would be grateful if he just served him water. But they ask what led him to look for a Sejun, because he has no knowledge if he already knows. But Sejun is missing now, and with that, he apologizes for the late introduction, saying he is Kim Dong-sik, the leader of the 5th team of the Phoenix Guild. So they are surprised that he is from the Phoenix, and the little brother soon recognizes that he is from that famous Phoenix Guild. And with that, the father asks what is wrong with Settle, and he wonders if this is real, and if he is the leader of the 5th team, and says that it is one of the top guilds that represent his country, and on top of that, it is the 5th team, and he is a wonderful high-level hunter. But Dang-sik continues to act very measured, saying that this is not so amazing, and then, the protagonist father questions why such an important person would come to his house, and asks his wife if she knows where the expensive melons are, asking to bring them. But he says that it is fine, telling them to sit comfortably, and the wife says that if he is a hunter, that probably means that her son is in the tower, and they ask when he entered and out Sejong, why is he there? And then Dang-sik says he's there to deliver something at Park Sejong's request, and he simply puts a letter on the table, and everyone is horrified by that, and they say he's a damn ungrateful, asking what's the point of needing them to do something if he left his parents there, that he still has a lot to do, and he starts to cry for the boy. But Dang-sik says that this is not a will, and the father doesn't understand anything if it's not a will, and as soon as he opens it, he sees that there are many euros there, and it's 50 million won, and so, Dang-sik says that Park Sejong is sorry for having to rush to the tower, and wanted to tell him that he's okay, and says that he asked him to deliver this to his family, and the father starts to laugh, saying that his son is smart like him, and knew he would be successful wherever he went. But the mother asks if Sejong is really okay, asking why he didn't come and give them this in person, and Dong-sik says that he said he can't go out because of the mission. It's something that often happens with hunters, asking the lady not to worry, and he also confirms Sejong's name and tells him to call him comfortably, and he says that of course, saying that he heard from his parents earlier, and Sejong is missing, questioning if he had no idea that he had entered the tower, and they say yes, because they suddenly lost contact with him about 5 months ago and haven't heard from him for months. Just in case, they asked the South Korean Awakened Association if there was anyone named Park Sejong, but they said no. He wonders if they use pseudonyms there. He says there are some people who do that sometimes, but there might have been a simple mistake. He'll investigate this with the association through the guild later. He notices that according to this family, he entered the tower 5 months ago and wasn't registered with the association. He's surprised that Sejong climbed to the 40th floor, and as a solo player, in the 10 years since the tower appeared, there hasn't been a hunter who climbed to the 40th floor in such a short time. He begins to wonder if this is the birth of a genius hunter, unprecedented in history. At this, Sejong calls the team leader, asking if by any chance he does some kind of talent development in the guild. So, his father he argues with the boy, saying that his brother is working twice as hard inside the tower, and the more he helps outside the tower, the better. The boy says he could also be talented. However, the team leader says that becoming a hunter is an extremely dangerous job where you can lose your life, and even the association does not recommend registering more than 1 hunter per family because, just in case, one misfortune is enough. He says he will say goodbye, but then the father says that they were of no use and he leaves, saying that he should at least have a meal there, but he doesn't deny it, saying that he went there right after leaving the tower, so he has to find his family. Then they notice that they held up a busy person, asking him to be careful on the way. When he returns to the car, the system sends him a notification that the contract mission has been completed, so he asks if he should go until he receives a call from his daughter, and he asks her if she missed her father and asks her to guess what he brought, and says that she brought that his daughter likes. But meanwhile, Theo in the tower is saying that the 99th floor is too far and is finally reaching the protagonist hole. While this gathers at home, doing something with the carrots, putting them in water, and after they grow roots, he plants them and says that the planting of the carrot tops has been completed and the system continues to give him rewards. And he talks about the process, that one must soak the leftover carrot tops from the rabbit's daily food in water for days. And when the leaves grow a certain size, he must cover with soil up to the root part, and sow the soil because the roots that were eaten do not grow back. And when the flowers grow on the top, the seeds are collected. And it turns out that it really works. And he says that this is what he likes about farming, and the bunny is happy with him. And he says that working hard gives him the feeling of being rewarded with unexpected gains, which accumulate over time. But then it is said that the tower manager is wondering if the dehydrated sweet potatoes are ready, and he ends up complying with the DM's anxiety, saying that he was going to check anyway. And when he goes along with the bunnies, they get excited and notices that they dried very well, so he takes them on so he can try it with them. And when he puts it in his mouth, he is happy with that delicious taste, saying that the crust is perfectly cooked and it retains the moisture and sweetness underneath. And all three of them really like what they are eating, and he says that no one can resist that softness, and it is like jojoba, and it has that addictive texture, and that is the dehydrated sweet potato. It is a cooked sweet potato that has been dried in the sun for 24 hours to maintain the sweetness and moisture, and it has a gummy texture, and it is sweet with an addictive salty flavor. And he says he is very excited, and he has to dry some more and eat them when he is bored. And at that, the ADM asks if he forgot something, and he apologizes, and the system says that the ADM wants to eat quickly, saying that they want him to complete the mission quickly and send some to them. But the protagonist wonders if the ADM can wait a little, and he questions what the protagonist is making it, and he says it doesn't seem appropriate, sending just food and a bowl of onion leaves every time, saying he has a better idea. And the ADM says he doesn't need that and just wants him to send it quickly, but he says it will only take a little while and it's ready, and he sends it in a bag, and he says it's a gift package of dehydrated sweet potatoes, and says it's pretty, and says he used to do some packing work as a side job. And he remembers that the ADM said it's his first time eating dehydrated sweet potatoes, and while he's making it, it'll be good to eat properly, and even if it's not for that reason, it will be preserved for a long time because the moisture will be sealed inside the package. And the ADM doesn't even have anything to say, and the protagonist asks if he's not going to take it, and he just says he thanks the boy, and he asks what happened because he thought his reaction would be better, but it was pretty lame, and he wonders if he's one of those who thinks he's playing with the food. But meanwhile, the little dragon is finding it very cute, wondering how he can eat something so cute, and the reaction was overwhelming. Meanwhile, the protagonist thinks to himself that he dried 40 baked potatoes, but he wonders why they disappeared in a single day, and everyone is eating with him, and this explains how they disappeared until the queen bee comes to him. He asks what's wrong, and she hands him something. He finds it strange, and it is a packet of compressed corn pollen, and this makes his beekeeping level increase minutely. And the compressed corn pollen is something he had never seen, and the corn is actually growing, and he thinks he hasn't paid much attention, but it has already grown a lot. Even the flowers have bloomed. He wonders if there is corn honey, and says that this must be the reason the worker bees collect pollen instead of honey. He thinks about that compressed Pollen, wondering if he should try it, since people eat pollen as a health supplement. It will be okay, and when he puts it in his mouth, he thinks it's slightly bitter, sweeter, and feels like he's eating candy, and says that it's extremely good, thanking the queen bee. And she gives the go-ahead for the others for them to start working, and they bring several to the protagonist, while she gets all smug, and she says that there are too many of them, and he can't eat those, and they are very precious. But at that, Theo goes back to being John, all happy, and he's surprised by this. But when Theo looks down, he gets scared seeing the queen bee, and starts saying that he's scared of her, and the protagonist tells him not to worry, because they all know he's on the same side as them. And in that, the queen bee throws some pollen at the cat, and when he smells it, her goodwill comes out through her collar, and he starts sneezing, saying he hates pollen. And the protagonist asks him not to do that on his clothes, saying that it is his only shirt. But then he talks to the salesman Theo, asking if he did what he asked, and he says of course, saying that he completed all the missions, and even sold everything. But then he asks if he brought the news of his family, and he says that must be the case, because there is even a contract there. And the protagonist notes that the contract is complete, and that means that his compliments and 50 million won must have been delivered. And Theo says that everything must have gone well, because the tower contracts are very strict, and he will go there one of these days to check. And in that, he says that the cat is very trustworthy, thinking about his father, his mother, and his little brother Seedle, saying that they were in trouble when he entered the tower, and were bothered by not being able to contact him them, and they should be worried about him. And he starts to think that they shouldn't even imagine that he entered the tower and became a farmer with rabbits, not even in their dreams. And he wonders what face they would make if he told them that his job is farming in the tower, and he says that Seedle, that brat, would certainly make fun of the boy, because despite everything, his specialty would be annoying. And he says that his father has a hobby of growing flowers, so he would certainly ask about their nutrients and give him some tips. And now that he thinks about it, he definitely inherited his father's talent, and he thinks about his mother, because she always served a pot full of queen tay stew, and he remembers the days he spent with all of them, saying that he misses his family. But then they all gather around the protagonist to show that he has a family there too, and he says that he is right, and they are his family now. And Theo asks if he is part of it too, and he says of course, because it's like his family and his only and most competent employee. So he tells him to take a look at the tower coins and the items he got, and says he used 50 tower coins for the contract fee and 14 point to tower coins for the errand boy, still having 208 tower coins left. And the protagonist is surprised by this, saying that this is incredible. Then Theo says that as expected, doing the business as he said, people increase their prices on their own, and there are also other things, which he bought in the market for Protagonist. And Sejun wonders how long it's been since he last saw that item of civilization, and they all get curious about the things the cat brought, and he says that as expected, it was made in the tower, so it has its own item sign. But he thinks this is strange, wondering why the manufacturer isn't revealed. Then he looks at a dagger there, and it's a sharp dagger, and he says that it's the first weapon since he entered the tower that actually looks like a weapon, and usage restrictions are level 10 or above, and strength has to be 5 or above, and the manufacturer is also not revealed. And he wonders why those question marks in the description, and talks to Dell, questioning where he got that. And he says he heard that the blacksmith's lottery corner sells things at a cheap price, so he just picked what looked good, and he's surprised by that. But since it meets the conditions of use, he wonders if he should use it. But then it is said about an item not evaluated by the system, and it is said that the ADM says that if he uses an unrated item recklessly, he can get into big trouble. And he questions what can happen if he just uses that, and the ADM says that they will evaluate it for him. So he sends a new mission, which is to send the unappraised short dagger to the tower's ADM, and the reward is none, but the failure is being unable to appraise. And there is also a new mission to send a baked sweet potato as a gift to the ADM, and the reward is the appraised short dagger, and the failure is being unable to retrieve the short dagger. And he asks if he really has to do it this way, and the ADM says that he strongly refuses, saying that the reason for this is not because they want to eat baked, dehydrated sweet potatoes, but note that he is saying yes, but with a strong refusal nonetheless. And he says he knew, because the tower manager is wiping his saliva, and the protagonist is mocked by the ADM's naughtiness, because he got a lot of potatoes earlier. And he says that he is right, because since it seems strange to use an item with unknown information, he accepts the deal, sending the ADM to get it. Then he uses the appraisal skill, and says that fortunately, it is not an item that it will cause damage, even the mission is not completed, and the dagger returns with him giving potatoes. And in this, it is a short dagger for training canes. It is the short dagger that the Canes hunter of the Red Mountain used to train during his childhood, and the blade is made of black iron to give it weight, making it quite heavy for a dagger. And it was mixed with some methyl during production, so once sharpened, the dagger's sharpness is maintained for a long time, and the use limit is above level 10 at strength 5. and the manufacturer is Raven Blacksmith, the black hammer of the ARF. And it also has a skill called Increased Proficiency, which makes all skill proficiencies that use this short dagger increase 5% faster. And he is surprised that it has the weapon's name, noting that this makes it a named equipment, and says that if it goes abroad, named equipment starts with a base price of 100 million won, and that is so rare and precious, which is called named equipment, wondering if that cat got it at a lottery corner and becoming increasingly surprised by Tell, as he thought he was just a naive little guy. But Seiya begins to wonder if the cat really has talent, but the truth is that he just stared at the little pads on the kitten's paws. Meanwhile, in the middle of the forest, a red bear is eating peacefully. But that's not just any red bear, it's a red bear cub. My friend, this is trouble. This is trouble, don't touch that thing. Have you seen the size of the mother? Whenever there's a cute cub of a very large animal, the mother, who is a very large animal, goes after it. And Dell in the cave keeps talking about this delicious churro, and Prota prepares to use his dagger, cutting several green onions with ease. Then he asks the rabbits what they think of his dagger skills, asking if it's really good. And everyone likes it. But then Tell asks Sejun if he likes that little sword, and he says yes, he does, and says he's impressed that Tell brought it. But Tell reminds him of the promise he made to him, telling him to call him Salesman Tell, since he promised him that an hour ago. And Prota says he's right, calling him Salesman Tell, saying that the guy is amazing. But then he says he'll let this video pass, telling Sejun to be careful. He wonders what this is, because to him, Tell was just a naive wimp. But he really has gold in his hands, well, gold in his paws. He really likes the cat's little pads and says he suddenly looks very handsome. But he asks what Sejun is doing, and he says his paws look very adorable. Talking to Salesman Tell, asking if he should give him another bag of churros, he places William on his lap. And Tell thinks that, as expected, Pax and Sejun are still human after all, and all humans bow before their paws. And now that he's aware of this, he's going to put it to good use. And so, he says that his front paws are the golden paws of luck. And he asks if that's not obvious, telling the boy to give him a lesson, saying he has no time to waste. However, Prota notes that this seems a little suspicious. He picks up the Tell and puts it on the floor, saying that he finished an hour ago. Then he asks if it was that quick, because he wanted to stay with the salesman a little longer, asking him to stay longer. But the Prota says it's over, leaving him there. And with that, Tell thinks this won't work. He'll have to use his special move, and he'll have to be a salesman for as long as he likes. So he tells Sejun that he has something he wants to show him, showing him that pepper, tomato, and several other things. So Prota is surprised by those spices, and Tell asks what he thinks, since he's gotten a bunch of rewards for taking photos. And so Prota really likes the salt, finally tasting it, getting it. And he talks about the spicy taste of that pepper and the richness of that seasoning. And when the rabbits taste it, they don't like it at all. And Prota says that this is the taste of the spices he hasn't tasted in days. And Tell questions what he thinks, asking Sejun if he doesn't deserve to be the salesman, asking if he can't become one for 2 hours with this. But Sejun asks what he means by 2 hours, and he'll let him be for 24. So Tell is all happy to have become a salesman for 24 hours. And Prota now makes a more elaborate fish, adding pepper, spices, and salt. And when he puts it on the skewer, a wonderful aroma wafts throughout the place. It even reaches the rabbits, who leave, starving. And Prota asks if they slept well. He says good morning to everyone, saying they're already hungry, so they should hurry and find a seat, because he had to show off some of his skills that day. A barbecue packed with people, they were amazed. So Prota says that just as a precaution he grilled the fish with salt and pepper separately. Then they had to choose the one that suited their taste. And he noticed that most of the white rabbits picked up the spicy seasoning, and the chubby one already ate it all, but the one with the floppy ears didn't like it at all, and the rabbit with the scythe didn't seem to like it very much either, while the black rabbit really liked it. And then he looks at Thel, saying that he's sleeping in. Then he goes to Thel and asks him to wake up, telling him that he should eat breakfast. And he starts ordering grilled fish, and Prota says it has salt and pepper. He asks which one he likes. He questions what he's doing with it. He asks if he's making a joke about the divine fish, and Prota just accepts that he doesn't really like salt grilled fish, giving Thel the regular fish, which I said as expected. Plain grilled fish is best when prepared this way. And after that, they'll harvest the tomatoes along with the rest of the rabbits. And Prota now harvests them with his dagger, and the system rewards him handsomely. He earns an additional 70 XP for those tomatoes. He mentions that he now has the option to train Kane's sharp dagger, which isn't just used for battle. He says that all proficiencies and abilities that use the dagger cut 5% faster. He says that as expected, the item named Rank B is different. He says he had to grind gold to increase its proficiency. He thinks it's really worth the work, asking Thel to pick it up, but he doesn't really like what he's doing. He's already making a fool of himself. He says he's a big seller, And why is he doing this? And Prota questions him, because he's the president, but he's working. So Thel is surprised that he was the president this whole time, and Prota says yes. Speaking to the salesman, Thel acts quickly. He says he's right, but he asks if the president is a higher position than a salesman, and Prota says that's right. Then Thel says he learned something good, and he says he's going to work with this information, and he starts laughing, saying that once he becomes president, he'll monopolize every pair's hands and legs. He thinks his purse is full, and now he's going to say goodbye and leave, and Prota asks if he's leaving already, and he remembers to tell Thel that when he stops at the shopping area, he must buy the things they need, and he must also make sure to stop by the forge and pick out anything he likes from the lottery corner, saying he can't let Thel's brilliant talent rot. And he says of course, saying he'll be back soon, leaving, saying goodbye to Prota, while he stays behind. He thinks he should finish the cherry tomatoes on that side and rest, and he keeps harvesting, gaining a ton of XP from it. But he's surprised, because that's not the amount of XP he can get by harvesting 6 cherry tomatoes. And when he sees all the characteristics of that fruit, he realizes he's now a rank D plantation, and breaking down fat, increasing money until expiration. Almost all of them have doubled. And what's more, it's much tastier. And he's surprised by this, because they're all rank D crops. And he's surprised that every plant he touches, they grow as rank D, because now, and Thel thinks that somehow, he feels disappointed as he leaves. And in that, as he makes his way, the dragon walks into a room. He sees the ice statue of the black dragon, made by Kaiser Furtani. And when he looks at that thing up close, he just breaks it and put it back in place. The gift of sweet potatoes, given by Prota. And he says that this trap, it is cast with a magical spell of permanent preservation, and will keep it, instead of eating, because you're human. Sejun gave it to her. I'm talking about her, but I don't know, because the little dragon is cute to cute. I'm talking like her, but I don't know, a dragon. It doesn't even have her in it. And the dragon wonders, you should check what Sejun is doing with that crystal ball, and notice that he's relaxing, taking a nap, unaware of the dangers that surround him. And he wonders, should he explore the area for now? But he notices something strange, and he gets scared. What could happen to Prota? So sends several notifications to wake him up quickly, and he questions, what's wrong with DM? He asked what's wrong. The DM tells him that this isn't the time to sleep, and tell him to look up, because up there's something, a monster. And Prota is surprised. So the dragon tells that bear to go away, sending him a notification. But when the notification arrives, the bear is a little shaken by what appears in front of him, and then he ends up stepping wrong, falling down there. And Prota asks him to wait, running to the teddy bear, picking him up, not letting him get splattered down there. So he questions himself what he just fell into, questioning himself, but he ends up noticing that it's the giant baby bear. Crimson. All cute, looking at him. My friend. Stop it. You're so cute, very cute, but it's going to be a mess. And when he realizes it, that's the Crimson Bear's baby. He notices that's that same monster that he saw during the blue moon that one time, and with such a frightening look, the baby, it's extremely small and cute. And Prota, seeing that, receives a message from DM. Asking, why did he pick up the giant crimson baby bear and fall? He questions, how could he let it fall? Because this is dangerous. But the DM says to send the giant baby out of the cave quickly, because his mother is certainly looking for him. He's very close. But Prota speaks, what if they send him away? He's very small, and he asks if it's okay. Send him away. That would be a better idea. Let the mother go get him. But the DM says that the giant crimson bear, he's a gluttonous monster, and he'll eat all the food in the cave. But he questions it. What do you mean? Because he's very small. Asking. DM, you're not exaggerating. And so, that bear, he goes near the black rabbit, while the rabbit pets him, to get along very well. And the queen bee. In turn, flies along with the bees. To leave. And the bear tries to go after her. But the bees, they don't like that at all, and they get really angry on top of the teddy bear. And Prota try to defend him. While he's scared to death, he tells the bees that everything is okay, and he is not the enemy. And he says that they acted like that because he approached. Suddenly. Them, sending the teddy bear, don't cry, and question if it's because he smelled the good smell coming from that young woman, and he thinks, which is very cute. So he asks to the queen bee if you can ask her a favor, and she doesn't like it very much. What is he talking about? But still, he accepts and hands him some honey. Then Prota give the honey to that little bear, asking him, try it, and speak. To Prota that I knew that he would like it. Yeah, he must have been there already because of the smell. Talking, what bears? They really like honey, and that's it. The ADM, there's nothing to talk to him about. And the teddy bear likes Prota, and he is surprised that the bear has already finished the honey. Asking if it was good, asking too if he wants a little more. But the ADM, he's shaking with fear of the idiocy what he was doing, and he gets really pissed and send a message right to Prota's face. And that message, it's a mission, it's a rejection, commanding. He sends the baby out of the cave. Now, and reward, a work skill, and rejection, it's going to be starving to death. And the system, says the tower manager. He's angry with the baby, giant bear, Crimson, and the baby. He's scared to death, along with all of them. And Prota, questioning, what is the ADM doing? Well, he's just a baby, and how much he eats to make him act like this. And the ADM dot says that he is just a sword driving away monsters, which could be threats to the tower farmer. But the Prota, he says he's really awesome, and he says he wouldn't have fallen inside the tower if he hadn't. He's surprised, but the ADM dot say that it was an innocent mistake speaking that he is sending. He listens to him immediately, and the Prota, think about that mistake, because they told you to enter the tower. It was also a mistake, and so he is moved with your story and also with history of that little bear and everyone. And Prota dot so dot the ADM dot says for him to do whatever he wants dot simply let it go. And in that, if John asks, how much does that little baby eat for this thing to be making you so jealous, saying it's right, and he'll send him out when the time is right. But he tells the little baby bear, asking him to get up because the scary thing dot is gone dot. So he ends up noticing when he picks up the teddy bear that he fell asleep on your lap, and you think he's so cute, saying you'll let him sleep in the cave that day, lying next to that stuff thing. And he says he'll send it back to him dot tomorrow. But while he sleeps, something happens, and the little bear ends up waking up early, moving around the cave, going to another corner, and the black rabbit gets up before everyone else, seeing what's happening, and starts screaming as he looks, what's going on? And Prota shouts to be able to wake him up dot. Then John gets up, asking what all the noise is dot. So he asks where the baby went, and sees the biggest mess, along with all the rabbits, asking what the problem is. And they're all really pissed, and he finally realizes it, that all your crops, except for the vegetables that were there, they were eaten only by that little thing that destroyed everything, with that most innocent look on his face, finishing all the food. And he realizes that the warehouse, it all went down the drain in a single night, and it looks like a bomb because the ADM warned him. And the rabbits, they start fighting with the teddy bear, fighting with him for what he did. And Prota go look to see if there's anything left, but he notices that a third of the sweet potatoes and the carrot is gone, and he didn't touch it. And cherry tomatoes somehow, and rabbits, they are very angry with that thing. And the teddy bear dot in turn run towards Prota dot. Well, you know that he will come for you and cover up for what he did. And he arrives crying in Sejun's arm. What a question. What happened? Because he grew so much in just one day, and he was almost the same size as the rabbits last day. And he notices that he ended up forgetting that inside the tower, it's a place where to eat. It can cause faster growth, and it's not strange at all. And he remembers that the ADM warned him for the crimson bear. He is a gluttonous monster, and he will eat all the food in the cave. And now he realizes the problem, which he fixed because he should have listened to the ADM. And the ADM, he sent a message to him saying that the puppies of the crimson bear, they are the biggest eaters, and they can easily eat 100 kilos in a single day if they have enough food. And Prota see that ADM is back, and ADM accept the apology because he did the right thing. While Prota, look, little pig, he says he thought that he was simply aware of him feeding the bear cub, and he didn't think so deeply. And the ADM says it again to Prota, what's important? Send that baby out. And he even agrees, but he wonders, how is he going to do that? So he ties a vine made with the chives on the bear to be able to trap it and form it as if it were a safety device. And he notices that the Prota, that is well tied, putting on the backpack in that thing, and asks the rabbits if they're ready already, with the black rabbit outside ready to pull that thing. So he asks both of them, pull him. Everyone pulls hard to get him out. They finally manage to lift the teddy bear, and they keep pulling little by little with everyone's help. He speaks that they are doing well, and they manage to lift him from the ground. But while he's under the bear, he starts to struggle, and Prota, seeing that he's getting scared, bring him honey to put his mind at ease, telling him he should go to his mother. Now. So going up with the honey, he gets calmer, and he stays quiet, and Prota says goodbye to him, and the teddy bear. To say goodbye to the boy. And so, as a reward, he acquires skill, work, collecting seeds, and making it grow slightly, the chance to get better seeds during harvest. And after everyone returns after the mission to send the bear out, he wonders if he'll get home safely and say they did a good job. But then they are hungry, and they see that everything is gone there because the bear has eaten most of what he had. And when he looks back, Both the wife and the husband, they realize that they are actually in a somewhat awkward situation, and he wonders if they should eat cherry tomatoes for now, and so on. A few days later, a shadow takes over the cave, and when they look up, the Prota is horrified, and at the entrance of the cave, there's the little bear again, and this time with his mother, a bear size XL, and he starts to think that really screwed. Good dot at least. She didn't come there, wanting to kill you, with blood in the eyes. Wow. Ready for war. Okay. But, my friend, what this be? It will have to work to make food for this gigantic thing. Just kidding, guys. Those things. Did you like it? Leave a like and subscribe. I'll bring it to you as soon as possible. I'm really enjoying Manhwa, rabbits, Luffies, and I hope you do enjoy. I sure will. See you in the next video. So, I look forward to our next meeting. I went.